subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Difficult for me to help you. You can only solve it on your own. You can use a large area of poisonous mist to poison the people of the Haotian sect, but the strong ones of the Haotian sect Ruyan, you can't handle it alone. So, you must be strong now, absorb these 2 soul bones. When Douluo was about to say that each person had a soul bone, Lu Haoli said before him, "It's not only good for you to become stronger, but I can also rely on you to protect me. Senior, don't shirk it, absorb these soul bones quickly." At this moment, the surrounding space suddenly shook, and a strange energy distorted the air, forming a black passage similar to a hole. 2 figures came out of it. Douluo immediately put the 2 soul bones into the soul guide, put his hands behind his back, and looked at the 2 figures walking towards him pretending to be nonchalant. After the possession of the shadow martial spirit was released, Lu Haoli took a closer look and realized that he had seen both figures teleported through space. A year ago, when the Imperial fighter team was training in the Tiando Great Soul Fighting Arena, Shui Qingyi had introduced Ning Fengji, the master of the Douluo Glaze sect, and ancient Banyan Bone Douluo to Lu Haoli. The 2 figures walking towards them were the 2 of them. It was probably the battle between Tang Hao and Douluo that attracted the attention of the Douluo Glaze sect. Chapter 97, Do you want to sleep at my house for one night? The Douluo Glaze sect, like the Sunset Forest, is located on the outskirts of Tiando City. As early as when the auras of Tang Hao and Douluo collided, the 2 titled Douluo of the Douluo Glaze sect sensed that there were strong men fighting in the Sunset Forest. Ning Fengji asked Sword Douluo Qinshin to stay at the sect, while he and Bon Douluo God Realm rushed to find out. After arriving at Sunset Forest, Ning Fengji and God Realm finally determined that the 2 sides fighting were Poison Douluo and Haotian Douluo. The 2 titled Douluo who were supposed to have no grudges suddenly came to blows, and both of them were ruthless. Seeing this situation, Ning Fengji and God Realm had no choice but to hide in the dark and observe. When Poison Douluo was about to be beaten to death by Haotian Douluo, Ning Fengji planned to stop him, but he was afraid that Haotian Douluo would regard him as an enemy. While hesitating, neither Ning Fengji nor God Realm took action, but Lu Haoli arrived to rescue Douluo. Ning Fengji and God Realm, who were hiding in the dark, saw that Poison Douluo was saved, so they continued to watch the battle secretly. While paying attention to the battle between Douluo and Tang Hao, Ning Fengji was also thinking about whether to take action to stop their deadly fight. If he took action, what would be the result? If he helps Douluo will owe Douluo Glaze sect a favor, and Ning Fengji still wants this benefit. But the strong man who fought against Douluo was Haotian Douluo Tang Hao, who was born in Haotian sect. In the end, Ning Fengji adhered to the idea that neither of them would be offended and watched the battle in secret with God Realm. It wasn't until the battle was over that the 2 of them ran out, with the purpose of asking Douluo what happened. "Old Poison, who were you fighting just now?" Arriving in front of Douluo, God Realm pretended to be ignorant and said, "Although there are many powerful 10,000-year soul beasts in this Sunset Forest, they shouldn't make you so embarrassed, right? Or is there really such a powerful soul beast running away? Come to Sunset Forest." Douluo looked into God Realm's eyes and thought for a moment before replying, "It's not a soul beast. I was fighting a titled Douluo just now." Upon hearing this, Ning Fengji and God Realm looked at each other. They pretended to be surprised, covering up that they had been watching the battle secretly. "Poison Crown, can you tell me which Douluo it is?" Ning Fengji asked. "Zhu Douluo of Wuhuan Palace." Douluo's expression suddenly darkened. Sect Master Ning also knows that many years ago, when I was promoted to a titled Douluo, I was crowned in Wuhuan Palace and named myself Poison Douluo. At that time, Wuhuan Palace, the Soul Palace, wanted to win me over, but I didn't agree, so it sent Zhu Douluo to chase me. Later, I lost to Zhu Huaguan, and he didn't kill me all because it was difficult for titled Douluo to cultivate. Just now, Zhu Huaguan came to me again and said that this was the last invitation. If he didn't join the Wuhuan Hall, he would kill me today. So, I started fighting with him. I see, Ning Fengji replied lightly, thinking that Douluo deliberately concealed his battle with Haotian Douluo, and he might have some ulterior secret. Boy, I seem to have seen you somewhere. Gu Rong noticed Lu Haoli standing next to Douluo. After listening to Gu Rong's words, Ning Fengji felt that Lu Bao was familiar, but he couldn't remember it for a moment. What's your name? Gu Rong asked. Douluo snorted coldly, stood in front of Lu Baoan, and said, Old Bones, this guy is my recent apprentice. He has good poison-using ability, but his strength is not enough. Don't scare him. It turns out he is Poison Douluo's disciple, so we won't ask any more questions. Ning Fengji smiled lightly and said, If I encounter other harassment in the future, you can always turn to the Seven Treasures Glaze sect for help. I will do whatever I can to help you. Help! Thank you, Sect Master Ning, for your kindness. If you are in trouble, I will definitely ask for help. Douluo could hear the implication of Ning Fengji's words. How could the Seven Treasure Glaze Tile sect not want a titled Douluo who was invincible in group battles? Ning Fengji said this because he wanted to help him to win him over to join the Seven Treasures Glaze sect. Even if he couldn't, he could form an alliance with a titled Douluo. For a sect, this was definitely not a bad thing. Since the battle is over, we don't need to stay here. Let's say goodbye first. Uncle Bones, let's go. While speaking, Ning Fengji winked at Gu Rong, who nodded slightly and opened a black vortex in front. As the black vortex closed, Ning Fengji and Gu Rong disappeared into the ruins. The two of them knew that Douluo was actually fighting Tang Hao just now, and that Douluo had obtained 2 of Tang Hao's soul bones. Douluo's Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor Spirit evolved inexplicably, and its strength increased greatly. If the 2 soul bones exploded from Tang Hao's body are absorbed, then Douluo's cultivation will inevitably skyrocket. By then, Poison Douluo will no longer be the weakest titled Douluo, but an invincible one in group battles. There is an existence that cannot be defeated by anyone. Rather than siding with Tang Hao, who was unable to win over and was now disabled and in a state of desolation, it would be better to be an ally with Poison Douluo, whose strength was no longer what it used to be. After weighing the pros and cons, Ning Fengji naturally made a wise decision. So he would not ask Douluo about the reason for fighting Tang Hao, let alone reveal the matter. If possible, not to mention the Spirit Hall, the Cabello Glaze sect would also like to win over Douluo, a strong man with terrifying group fighting abilities. It's a pity that his son has no future and his talent is too poor to marry Douluo's granddaughter Douyin. Unable to win over Douluo through marriage, Ning Fengji had no choice but to offer Douluo the olive branch of if you have trouble, go to the Cabello Glaze sect. Seeing the figures of the 2 big men disappearing completely, Lu Baohao was secretly relieved. If Douluo hadn't spoken for him, he really didn't know how to respond to Ning Fengji and Gu Rong's questions. After all, he had already fought with Poison Douluo and Porcupine Douluo. Snake Spear Douluo was involved, and he didn't want the 2 Sword Bone Douluo of the Seven Treasures Glazed sect to pay attention to him. Lu Baohao looked at Douluo and thought that the only titled Douluo he could trust now was this Poison Douluo. The only strong man who is truly willing to stand up and protect himself is Douluo. That's why Lu Baohao gave Douluo the 2 soul bones that exploded from Tang Hao's body to absorb, so that Douluo could improve his strength as soon as possible. In this way, he would have the most reliable helper. After this battle, Lu Haoli knew how powerful the titled Douluo was, and now, his desire to improve his strength was extremely strong. Ice and Fire Spring Water. Sure. Lu Bao controlled the alchemy furnace suspended above the hot Yanchuan and used the hot air to refine the elixir. Douluo was meditating on the side, absorbing the 2 soul bones that exploded from Tang Hao's body. I originally gave Lu Bao a piece of it, but he didn't want it. Therefore, Douluo decided to leave a piece of soul bone to his granddaughter Douyin. But he was reminded by Lu Baoyan that if Douyin had Haotian Doa soul bone in his body, it would definitely cause all kinds of trouble. Finally, in order to improve his strength and have the power to protect his relatives and fight against the Haotian sect, Douluo decided to absorb these 2 high-quality soul bones. An hour later, the golden and green aura was released from Douluo's body, rushing in all directions in the form of energy ripples. Lu Bao, who was refining medicine, was blown away by this golden energy and fell into the eyes of ice and fire. He cursed in his heart. When he has the strength of a titled Douluo, he must also experience how he can defeat someone with just his momentum. The feeling of being shaken away. However, after soaking in the ice and fire spring water and watching Douluo become more powerful, Lu Baoyong was still very happy. With Douluo having enough strength, he could rely on Douluo to check and balance Qian Rinchue's side. The two Douluo of the Agouti and the Snake Spear. This way you don't have to worry about facing various unforeseen dangers. While those titled Douluo above level 96 have not yet appeared, and while Douluo can still become his backer, Lu Bao must quickly improve his strength. While cultivating soul power in the future, you can use the principle of ring explosion to develop tricks to fuse the 9 shadow generals with yourself, so that you can have desperate skills like Tang Hao. Senior, how do you feel after the 2 soul bones have been absorbed? Lu Baoli came to Douluo in a flash and asked curiously, the right leg bone and left arm bone should be related to speed and strength, right? Not bad. Douluo stood up and loosened his left wrist before responding. After absorbing Tang Hao's left arm bone, I have an extra attack type skill. If you combine the earth attribute and the poison attribute, this attack type left arm bone skills can exert far more power than Medusa's skull skills. Tang Hao's right leg bone is also good and comes with a teleportation skill. In addition, by absorbing these 2 old soul bones and stimulating the effect of the earth dragon and golden melon, my soul power has been raised from level 93 to level 94. It seems that I have offended Tang Hao. I also got an unexpected surprise. Seeing Douluo's increasingly excited look, Lu Bao said with a smile, Senior, you have another surprise. When the golden-scaled Jade Snake King appears, there will be a sandstorm. Maybe after you break through the 96th level, you can awaken the domain skills of the golden-scaled Jade Snake King. Your domain skill should cause a sandstorm climate carrying corrosive poison to appear in a large area. With the blood of the earth dragon, after the problem of snake venom backlash is completely solved, your cultivation talent will inevitably increase. Senior, now you have the appearance of becoming a 99th level titled Douluo. Douluo was a sinister and cautious man, and never cared about others flattering him, but for a moment he still got the upper hand. He gradually held his head high amidst Lu Bao's praises, and his hands and fingers on his back were shaking frequently. I thought, say more, say something nice. Boy, it's all thanks to you that my talent and strength have improved so much. Douluo looked deeply at Lu Bao, feeling a lot of gratitude in his heart that he didn't know how to express. This battle with Tang Hao made Douluo completely let down his guard against Lu Baoyong. He really didn't expect that Lu Baoyong would join the dispute between titled Douluo in order to save him. If he was not careful, he could use only his level 50 soul to fight against Tang Hao. The strong Lu Bao would definitely die. This is the first time that Douluo has spent life and death with someone, and it is also the first time that he feels that having a comrade is a very good thing. Douluo felt that Lu Baoli was not only his junior, but also a comrade who could give his back to the opponent. Looking deeply at Lu Baoan, Douluo's calm face suddenly smiled. Boy, it's getting late. Do you want to sleep at my house for the night? Chapter 98 Grandpa. How can you compete with your granddaughter for a man? Night, Tiando City, Douluo. Tomorrow is a rest day. After finishing the mimic training in the academy this afternoon, Douluo followed his grandfather's arrangement and went home every rest day to learn poisonous skills from his grandfather. As soon as he walked into the house, Douluo noticed a commotion in the kitchen, and his grandfather was sitting at the dining table in the hall. There were several plates of delicious food on the table. The color of the soup and vegetables alone made people salivate, let alone the aroma exudes from every plate of food. Seeing his granddaughter coming home, Douluo's usually cold face became a little softer, and he waved, Yin Yin, come here quickly. While walking towards the dining table, Douluo was also paying attention to the movements in the kitchen. Her grandfather should be the only one living at home. If Grandpa is sitting at the dining table, then who is cooking in the kitchen? Just as Douluo came to the dining table and sat opposite Douluo, Lu Bao, who was cooking in the kitchen, heard the sound and came out. He looked at the dining table and said in surprise, "Yinzi, you are such a rare guest. Why are you free to come here today?" Hearing this greeting, Douluo Yin was stunned and stared blankly at Lu Haoli. At this moment, he was wearing a white jersey, but it was a jersey specially used for the kitchen, also known as an apron. He was holding an apron in his hand. A green handkerchief is wiping hands. The kitchen is full of aroma, and cooking is still going on. "This is my home." Douluo Yin frowned. "Lu Haoli, this is the right thing for me to ask you. Why are you in my home?" "Senior Douluo invited me over to play. He said he would sleep here one night first." Hearing this answer, Douluo Yin looked at Douluo with disbelief, and Douluo smiled and nodded. "You and your granddaughters, let's talk first. We can have dinner after I finish cooking this dish." After saying that, Lu Haoli walked back to the kitchen, threw the green handkerchief to the side of the sink, and continued to cook. As a Blue Star person who traveled to Douluo continent, he did not have the same Tang Sek skills as Tang San, but he was still good at cooking. Douluo Yin glanced towards the kitchen, with a look of curiosity on his face. "Grandpa, when did your relationship with Lu Haoli become so good? A year ago, you came to the academy to see him every day. Why?" "Grandpa, I can't say it now. You'll find out later," Douluo said calmly. Douluo Yin frowned. "Then why did you take him home? You can tell me this, right?" "It's not for you." Douluo looked into his granddaughter's eyes and said very seriously, Yin, didn't you say that the man you want will fight for it? Grandpa asked you. When can you get rid of that boy?" Hearing this question, Douluo Yin's vigorous and resolute demeanor suddenly restrained. He glanced towards the kitchen, and after a moment of silence, he responded, "Come on. Lu Haoli has just returned to the academy. You can't let me attack him so quickly, can you?" Douluo gave a weird laugh. "If you don't do anything shamelessly, Grandpa will take action." Douluo Yin looked at Douluo with a shocked face. "Grandpa, how can you steal a man from your granddaughter?" Douluo corrected him. "What Grandpa means is that if you keep dragging on like this, Grandpa will help you and secretly match you too. No matter what means are used, Grandpa will let you and that kid cook rice and rice. Now you know why did Grandpa take him home to sleep for one night? Because Grandpa knew you would come back tonight. Yin, you must seize the opportunity tonight and train that boy to be obedient." No matter how outgoing and open-minded Douluo Yin was, she still couldn't help but blush when her grandfather gave such an explanation. Everyone has their own concept of love. As for Douluo Yin, she only likes the person she likes. This favor is in order. First she likes one person, and then the previous person. Douluo Yin's character is just like her Wuhuan Jade Phosphorus Snake. She will take the initiative to attack once she spots her prey. As early as a year ago, Douluo Yin knew that she was interested in Lu Haoli and originally wanted to launch an offensive, but unexpectedly, Lu Haoli asked the academy to go out to other cities to experience the spirit battles, and he left for a year. During this year, Douluo Yin was very lonely, with no one to argue with her, and even though she was in love, Lu Haoli was not around. Whenever he stayed up late at night practicing on the roof of the girls' dormitory, Douluo Yin would run to the roof of the boys' dormitory, hoping that Lu Haoli would also be practicing on the roof. Unfortunately, this happened again and again for a year, with no sign of Lu Haoli and no news about him. Not long ago, Lu Haoli returned to the academy after finishing his training abroad. When he saw him, Douluo Yin couldn't hold back his emotions, so he ran over and threw himself into his arms regardless of everyone's eyes. Now Lu Haoli is back, but he often runs out of the academy. Whenever Douluo Yin wants to launch an offensive against him, he happens to leave the academy, which makes Douluo Yin feel very unhappy. "When I came home today, I found Lu Haoli at home." What Douluo Yin didn't expect even more was that his grandfather asked Lu Haoli to sleep at home for one night. For what kind of raw rice and cooked rice? Thinking of all this, no matter how vigorous and resolute Douluo Yin was, he felt a little shy at this time. Seeing his granddaughter's hesitation, Douluo felt very anxious. He had been wary of Lu Haoli before, so he would not encourage his granddaughter to act quickly. After the battle with Tang Hao, Lu Haoli's status in Douluo's heart was no longer that of an outsider, but a comrade worth trusting. Of course, this kind of entrustment does not mean that Douluo will be entrusted with him for life, but that he entrusts his back to Lu Haoli during the battle, which means complete trust. In fact, it is correct to say that it is entrusted to him for life. Douluo really wanted to entrust his granddaughter's life to his most trustworthy comrade. That's why he was so concerned about his granddaughter and Lu Haoli's affairs. And that's why he urged his granddaughter to act quickly. Yin, it's not like you don't know that Lu Haoli's talent is unmatched by other young soul masters. Do you know what the fourth ring of 10,000 years means? Douluo tried to put some pressure on his granddaughter, saying, when Lu Haoli showed the fourth ring of 10,000 years in the academy, the students and teachers who were watching all looked at him straight. Such a genius must have a bright future, and there will definitely be a large number of people. Many nobles befriended him, and even rushed to marry their daughters to him. If you hesitate any longer, he will be deceived by other women. Anyway, Grandpa doesn't care. It's all your business. If you are willing to see it for yourself, the prey was snatched away, and the grandfather had nothing to say. After hearing these words, Douluo's heart suddenly tightened. He recalled that when eating in the college canteen, people often talked about Lu Haoli's fourth ring of 10,000 years. Now in Tiando Royal Academy, it is not only Lu Haoli's violence that is spread, he has a crazy reputation and his outstanding talent that is different from ordinary people. When the good side completely outweighs the bad side, then people will only look at the good side. Therefore, Lu Haoli is now very famous in Tiando Royal Academy. Not to mention the male students who want to be friends with him, there are countless women, including female teachers. Just when Douluo said to her grandfather, let's start cooking the raw rice tonight, Lu Haoli walked out of the kitchen carrying the last dish. The grandfather and granddaughter stopped talking immediately before they finished talking. Lu Haoli put the dishes on the table and sat next to Douluo. Douluo moved his position slightly, farther away from Lu Haoli. Yinzi, why are you so shy? Lu Haoli smiled. I'm eating, but I won't eat you. Why are you hiding from me like this? Douluo said angrily. Don't you know? My whole body is covered with jade phosphorus snake venom. Do you want to be poisoned to death if you stand so close to me while eating? After hearing this, Lu Haoli remembered and took out an elixir refined from the Earth Dragon Golden Melon from the Ring Soul Guide, handed it to Douluo, and said, Senior, this is the antidote for Yinzi. Tomorrow you teach her how to practice. Give it to her when she is poisoned. You should know how to absorb the effects of the elixir and what you need to pay attention to during the absorption process. I will ask for leave from the Academy on behalf of Yinzi in the past few days. Don't go to the Ice and Fire Eyes to practice yet. Help Yinzi solve the problem of biphosphorus snake venom at home. Okay. Douluo took the elixir and put it into the soul guide. Watching the conversation between the two, Douluo was confused. She could only analyze it that her grandfather and Lu Haoli seemed to know each other because of the golden pill. Can this pill solve the backlash of the phosphorus snake venom? A few days later, late at night, Tiando Royal Academy, on the roof of the boys' dormitory. Lu Haoli sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and concentrated, taking advantage of the surrounding darkness, the shadows of various buildings and plants, and the moonlight to practice. At the same time, he was also reviewing the battle between Douluo and Tang Hao, and was deeply shocked by the technique of ring explosion. The original book has a description of the Haotian sect's ring blasting. Lu Haoli doesn't remember it clearly, but he vaguely remembers that ring blasting is a desperate skill. Exploding the ring is accompanied by great dangers. If one does not control well and cannot withstand the energy generated by the ring explosion, he may be counterattacked by the energy of the ring explosion. In serious cases, the soul master will die suddenly. This is also the reason why only Haotian Douluo has practiced the great Sumera hammer in the past generations of the Haotian sect. Without strong talent, profound knowledge, and excellent physical strength, using this secret skill is no different from committing suicide. When Tang Hao used the explosive ring, Lu Haoli could clearly see the energy transformation in Tang Hao's body through the clairvoyance of his strange pupils. Tang Hao first injected soul power into the soul ring, and used the energy contained in the soul power to squeeze out the soul ring. When the soul ring exploded, all the energy contained in the soul ring would burst out. Then, by absorbing the energy of these soul rings and integrating it into his own attacks, he can generate a power far beyond his original strength. Using the idea of exploding the ring, Lu Haoli was also thinking about how to fully stimulate the energy of his soul ring and perfectly integrate himself with the energy of the soul ring. Tang Hao can blow up the soul ring, all thanks to the extremely domineering destructive energy contained in his soul power. And the source of this destructive energy is the Clear Sky Hammer, which is the world's #1 martial spirit weapon. Generally speaking, the quality of a martial soul determines the innate soul power, which is enough to show that the generation of soul power is closely related to the bloodline of the martial soul. When the extremely destructive Clear Sky Hammer martial spirit is conceived in a person's body, it will be accompanied by the birth of soul power. Therefore, the soul power is affected by the Clear Sky Hammer martial spirit and contains destructive energy. Injecting the soul power containing destructive energy into the soul ring, thereby destroying the soul ring. This should be the reason why Tang Hao can blow up the soul ring. As a Blue Star person wearing a suit, Lu Haoli had no martial spirit bloodline, so naturally he was born without a martial spirit. His shadow martial spirit and level 30 soul power were all obtained from the novice gift package given by the system. The shadow martial soul does not come with any elemental attributes, and the soul power does not contain any kind of special energy. Therefore, Lu Hao couldn't use the soul power containing destructive energy to blow up the soul ring like the Clear Sky Hammer Soul Master. Fortunately, after taking the star anise ice grass and Liehua Xingjiashu, Lu Haoli's soul power gained the ultimate ice and fire energy. If he couldn't use the destructive energy contained in his soul power to blow up the soul ring, then he would use the ultimate fire energy in his soul power to burn the soul ring, thus achieving the effect of blowing up the ring. This technique of burning soul rings is called Fire Ring by Lu Haoli, also called Burning Ring. Notice on April 7th, Chapter 99 Burning Ring, inject the soul power containing the ultimate fire energy into the soul ring. When the fire energy the soul ring bears is large enough, it will spontaneously ignite. The burning soul ring will release intense light and heat energy. After fusing this energy with the body, it can burst out with far more powerful power than before. This is the idea of burning the ring. At present, the candidates for the 9 Black Shadow Generals have been determined. The Super Soul Beast Dark Demon Evil God Tiger has the blood of the Evil God. The 2 Dragon Kings of Ice and Fire possess the power of a first-level god. There are also beast-level existences, such as the Dark Gold Terraclaw Bear. After possessing the ability to kill gods, you can even kill those gods and seal them in the Shadow Tomb realm, turning them into god-level Shadow Generals. If these Shadow Generals can be bound to their soul rings as desired, then after the ring-burning skill is used, these Shadow Generals will merge with themselves along with the energy formed by the burned soul rings. How powerful will the power born by then be? Lu Haoli couldn't estimate it, but he knew that once he created the desperate skill of ring burning, it would definitely be far superior to that of the Haotian sect's ring blasting. It would not be an exaggeration to call it the god-killing technique. Adhering to the idea of burning the ring, Lu Haoli activated his soul power, first purified the ultimate fire energy contained in the soul power, and then used soul skills to inject the soul power into the soul ring. Previously, he used the 3rd soul skill, Shadow Control, to control shadows. He would also inject ice and fire energy and soul power into the soul ring, so that the soul skill could obtain the control effect of ice and fire, or create the ultimate cold poison and fire poison. Therefore, the process of injecting the soul power containing the ultimate fire energy into the soul ring is very simple for Lu Haoli. The only difficulty is that if he wants to purify the fire energy contained in the soul power, he must be extremely careful. The ice energy is filtered out so that the soul ring can be burned better. Yellow, purple, black. For soul rings slowly fell from Lu Haoli's head and quietly hovered in different locations on his body. Lu Haoli injected his soul power into the first soul ring and saw that the first soul ring, which was originally emitting yellow light, suddenly sped up and spun, constantly releasing its own aura. The first spirit ring was a gift package for beginners. It was not hunted from a spirit beast, so the aura produced by this spirit ring did not give people any special feeling. But just after the ultimate fire energy was injected into the first soul ring along with the soul power, the aura released by the first soul ring changed. The aura that originally had no special feeling gradually became warm and hot, wrapping the first soul ring. The yellow light became more and more dazzling, releasing strong light and heat like a round little sun. The more the soul power is transferred into the first soul ring, the faster the soul ring rotates, the more crazy it is, even making a harsh sound. The first soul ring, which releases light and heat like the sun, is constantly melting while rotating. Like a rapidly rotating gear cutting a steel plate, countless sparks splashed out on the soul ring, continuously being poured into the ultimate fire energy. The temperature of the first soul ring itself is also constantly rising, and the piercing sound echoes in the air. At this moment, Lu Bao's body seemed to be surrounded by a bursting and rotating gear. Sparks were flying, and the surrounding air had become extremely hot. Fortunately, he has a physique that is indestructible from water and fire. Otherwise, Lu Baobai would definitely turn into ashes under such high temperature. Suddenly, there were no more sparks flying on the crazily rotating first soul ring, and the yellow light first turned into platinum light and finally turned into black flames. Lu Haoliang felt that Finwan's idea was right. At this moment, the first soul ring had been ignited by the ultimate fire energy. This was similar to Tang Hao's destructive energy detonating the first soul ring. Looking at the black flames igniting at the edge of the first soul ring, Lu Baoli continued to inject soul power into the first soul ring. He could feel that the energy generated by the burning soul ring was integrated into himself. But this alone was not enough. The first soul ring must be burned out before it can be integrated with all the energy contained in the soul ring. The black flames burning on the first soul ring became more intense. The black flames continued to spread from the edge of the soul ring to the center of the soul ring, until it penetrated into Lu Baoli's body. At this moment, Lu Baohai felt a sharp pain all over his body. The sudden pain caused his extremely concentrated mental energy to suddenly disperse. The black flames burning fiercely on the first soul ring were extinguished instantly, and the surrounding air cooled down rapidly, wisps after wisps. The thermal air slowly rises, forming a hazy mist on the roof of the building. All 4 soul rings were withdrawn into the body, and Lu Bao was breathing heavily. His eyes were full of horror, and he was sweating coldly. During the process of burning the soul ring, just now, I didn't feel anything happened. When the first soul ring was almost burned and the energy generated merged with itself, my body started to change. Moreover, there are many risks in ring burning and ring explosion. For example, after burning the soul ring, it must take a while before burning the soul ring again. Otherwise, there is a risk that the soul ring will be truly burned. In addition, after the burning ring is used, the user will be in a weak state, and it is very likely that, like Tang Hao, the user will suffer from the fatal flaw of a sharp decrease in physical strength. With a long breath, Lu Bao wiped the cold sweat from his face, and his horrified expression returned to its previous calmness. Although he failed just now and failed to study the ring burning technique, he gained some insights and things to pay attention to. It's a pity that the summoned ghost soldiers don't have soul rings. Otherwise, they would be allowed to do the ring burning experiment. Lu Baoli stood up, took a piece of herbal medicine called snow silkworm, used his soul power to adjust his breath for a few seconds, and then moved his body. There was no abnormality. Is that the light of the soul ring? Only when Lu Hao stood up did he realize that there was light flashing on the roof of the girls' dormitory opposite. The yellow and purple lights blended together, and he could faintly feel the changes in the soul power. It should be a female student practicing on the roof. Is it Dugian? Lu Baoli thought. In the past, Dugian often came to visit the class on the roof of the boys' dormitory. The reason she hasn't been here these days is because she is still absorbing the effects of the Earth Dragon Golden Melon Elixir at her home in Tiando City. Could it be that the absorption is over? Lu Bao's guess was right. 5 days ago, Dugian went home to learn poisoning from her grandfather and found that Lu Bao was also at her home. Later, Lu Bao took out an Earth Dragon Golden Melon Elixir and asked her grandfather to instruct her on how to take and absorb the elixir. Today is the 5th day. Douluo has absorbed the effects of the elixir. The jade phosphorus snake Wuhan has acquired the blood of the earth dragon and evolved into a golden-scaled jade snake, so he rushed back to the academy. At this moment, Douluo was sitting cross-legged on the ground, with 3 yellow, and purple soul rings moving up and down her body. She closed her eyes and carefully felt the changes brought to her after the evolution of the martial soul. First of all, the biggest change is that I no longer have to bear the pain of the backlash of biphosphorus snake venom. The jade phosphorus snake evolves into the golden-scaled jade snake, gaining the dual attributes of poison and earth, which makes the spirit's defensive power even better. The poison control ability is no longer limited to poisonous mist, but can also act on the ground and even control the power of the earth. Come and fight. Douluo discovered that when her grandfather's golden-scaled jade snake emperor spirit appeared, sandstorms with corrosive poison would rise around it. But this did not happen when her golden-scaled jade snake appeared. Perhaps the golden-scaled jade snake emperor was stronger than the golden-scaled jade snake. The quality of the martial spirit must be high, so it has the ability to stir up wind and sand. However, Douluo did not feel disappointed because of this, because in addition to the changes in her martial soul, her soul power had also been improved, and her original 39-level soul power had broken through to level 40. Now, Douluo has gone to help her find a suitable soul beast. After absorbing the 4th soul ring and breaking through the level limit, the soul power should be upgraded several more levels. After retracting the 3 soul rings into his body, Douluo ended his meditation and slowly opened his eyes. What caught his eye was not the night scene, but Lu Bao's black eyes. Lu Baoyan. Douluo was obviously startled by the sudden appearance of Lu Baoyan. Why are you here? This is the girls' dormitory. Didn't you see the sign downstairs that no boys are allowed to enter? I didn't see it. Lu Baoyan explained. I jumped over from the roof of the boys' dormitory, and I didn't see any warning posted downstairs. A strange smile appeared on Douluo's face. You broke into the girls' dormitory without permission. Believe it or not, I will report you to the college. Then go and file a lawsuit, Lu Baoli said stabbingly. Anyway, Prince Shueshing is very optimistic about me now, and he won't do anything to me. After hearing this, Douluo remembered that ever since the people in the academy knew that Lu Baoli's 4th soul ring was a 10,000-year soul ring, all the aristocratic students had made various overtures to him, as if they were possessed by a demon. Even Shueshing the prince also paid special attention to him. Now let alone report Lu Baobao for trespassing into the girls' dormitory. Some girls might even take the initiative to open their doors and urge him to come in quickly. Yanzi, have you absorbed the effects of the Earth Dragon Golden Melon Elixir? Lu Bao asked. Yes, I just absorbed it this afternoon. It took me 5 full days, and now my martial soul has evolved. My soul power has exceeded level 40. My grandfather is already helping me find the soul ring. After absorbing the soul ring, I am also a soul sect. As he spoke, Douluo stood up, stared at Lu Baoyan with his green eyes, and said slightly excitedly, LV Baoyan, don't think that you are great if you absorb a 10,000-year 4th ring. Let's fight again after I am promoted to the soul sect. Fighting spirit, this time my golden-scaled jade snake spirit will definitely poison you to death. Okay, let's have another soul battle in the practical class tomorrow. Lu Baoli changed the topic and said with a smile. However, your grandfather's snake venom may be able to poison me, but with your mere level 40 soul, the snake venom produced by force is probably very difficult to achieve. You didn't have such a strong anti-toxic constitution before, right? Thinking of the elixir sent by Lu Bao, Douluo suddenly realized, did you take any medicine that can resist all toxins? Lu Hao did not answer this question directly. In short, I am immune to all poisons now. You don't have to worry about the snake venom on your body hurting me in the future. Even if we have some physical contact or collision, you are not afraid. Hearing body collision once, Douluo recalled that her grandfather asked Lu Bao to sleep at home for one night 5 days ago. That night, she didn't listen to her grandfather's instigation and killed Lu Bao. She didn't cook the raw rice into cooked rice. It's not that Douluo is too timid to do those things between men and women. After all, he is already an adult. So what is there to be afraid of? However, Every part of Douluo Yan's body is infected with jade phosphorus snake venom. Once he has physical contact with others, the jade phosphorus snake venom will harm others. Not wanting Lu Bao to get hurt, Douluo Yan naturally didn't do anything in close physical contact with him. Seeing Douluo Yan lowering his head and saying nothing, with a faint red color on the face of the snake spirit with enchanting charm, Lu Bao was stunned. The vibrant, youthful body and neat neck-length short hair make Douluo Yan look mature and energetic, especially the innate charm of a snake girl. With purple hair and blue eyes, under the background of the moonlight, Douluo Yan's eyes were no longer as sinister as before, but a little more gentle. Especially when there is a little confusion in her eyes, there is a feeling of affection that makes people feel affectionate. The physical collision that Lu Baoyan said to Douluo Yan just now was a deliberate hint, not a joke. That charming snake-like face, the soft and exquisite body curves like a snake, the charming voice, and the bold personality always give people a charming feeling. The more he stared at Douluo Yan, the more lustful Lu Baoyan felt, and he kept thinking about those dirty things in his mind. Such a beauty, no matter in bed or anywhere, would definitely satisfy people completely. On such a night, on the roof of the girls' dormitory where only men and women were alone, no matter how good Lu Bao's control was, he would not use it to control himself, but to control the beauty in front of him so that she could not fight back, and then put her have-eaten. When Douluo Yan reacted, Lu Bao had already put her in his arms. Douluo Yan did not refuse the sudden embrace. Her green eyes flickered with guilt and then became firmer. Because the jade phosphorus snake spirit evolved, all the snake venom in her body disappeared, and she did not have to worry about hurting others. Douluo Yan's helpless hands also hugged Lu Bao's waist, and her rosy face rested against his chest, allowing herself to slowly adapt to this feeling. Except for her relatives, she has never enjoyed hugs from other people. She already had a deep affection for Lu Bao. The snake venom backlash that brought the family to ruin was also solved by Lu Bao. At this moment, the gratitude to Lu Bao in her heart made Douluo Yan is even more determined. She can trust this person for the rest of her life. Holding Douluo Yan in his arms, the uneven feeling was very obvious. Not refusing the hug was the best hint. Lu Baoyan's heart suddenly relaxed, and his movements became bolder. The left hand placed on Douluo Yan's waist slowly slid down, constantly testing the bottom line that Douluo Yan can accept. The gentle and slow touch passed through the barrier of the skirt and slid down from the waist, even though it was not a sensitive area. Let Lu Bao's fingers slowly slide to the bottom of the skirt until they touched her slender white legs. Chapter 100 Resistance and Hill Climbing Training. Just when Lu Baoyan's left hand passed through the cover of the skirt and was about to break through the last line of defense, Douluo Yan pushed Lu Baoyan away and ended the physical contact with each other abruptly. Looking straight into Lu Baoyan's eyes, Douluo Yan felt a sense of guilt in her heart. She knew that it would be too disappointing to refuse at this time, but she still couldn't accept it all at once. The person who often went against her was now playing with her body wantonly. Just wait until I'm mentally prepared. It's getting late, so get some rest soon. We have classes and practice tomorrow. After saying that, Douluo Yan ran towards the stairs and walked down without looking back. Even though Douluo Yan left, her strange body fragrance still remained on Lu Baoyan. He sighed with regret, and Lu Baoyan thought to himself that tonight happened suddenly, so he should be mentally prepared. If they were in the room, maybe each other's bodies would have been entwined together on the bed. Unfortunately, this is the roof of the building. For Douluo Yan, it is still a bit unacceptable to do that kind of thing on the roof of the building. The next day, Tiando Royal Academy, playground. The theoretical class in the morning is over, followed by practical class. Because teacher Qin Ming left the academy with Shrek and the others, Tiando Class 1 was left without a practical instructor. In order to resume the practical teaching of Tiando Class 1 as soon as possible, the 3 education committee members decided to let Shigao Lai, who usually only serves as a substitute teacher, serve as the practical instructor of Tiando Class 1. Shigao will also replace Qin Ming and become the dedicated instructor for the first team of Tiando Royal Academy, and will lead this team to participate in the Continental Senior Soul Master Elite competition in the future. That's what happened. I will be here to teach you the next practical lessons. After explaining to the students, Shirgao looked at Oslo, who was holding his arms and crying, and said unexpectedly, Ostro, I didn't expect that. You like the teacher so much that you are moved to tears when he comes to teach you? Don't worry, the teacher will love you very much. Hearing this, Oslo became even more haggard. How could he be so moved that Shirgao became his special instructor that he cried? He was obviously afraid of Shirgao's practical lessons, so he cried in fear. Shirimo patted Oslo on the shoulder and said with a smile, Leopard, why are you crying? My father is actually very gentle and easy to talk to. When he faces my mother at home, he has a very good temper and is very obedient. Shirgao hit Mo's head with his finger and cursed, How many times have I told you to avoid suspicion in the academy and call me Teacher Shir? Also, don't mention family matters when you are outside. Otherwise, you'll get beaten up, right? I know, father. Mo scratched his head in frustration, not daring to speak anymore. What did you call me? Shirgao glared at Shir. Mo said weakly. Sure, Teacher Shir. Okay, the content of today's practical class is different from before. Shirgao put his hands behind his back, glanced at the students lined up in 3 teams, and said with a smile, In this practical class, I want you to be with me climb from the foot of the Academy mountain to the top of the mountain using restricted soul skills. Tiendo Royal Academy is built around a 500-meter mountain. Every corner of the mountain has various training facilities set up by the Academy, among which the Mimicry Training Ground is the most numerous. The floors are almost all distributed on the mountain. At the foot of the mountain is the entrance of the college. Halfway up the mountain are the dormitory area and dining hall of the college. And at the top of the mountain are important facilities such as the teaching building, the dean's building, and the education committee. Shirgao asked the students of the Tiendo Class 1 to climb from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain using his restricted soul skills. What is this concept? If an ordinary soul master wanted to walk up the stone steps to the top of the mountain in one breath, it would be equivalent to running a distance of 500 meters at most, which was not difficult. But it is a bit difficult to complete this training with restricted soul skills, because a 500-meter mountain is different from a 500-meter straight line. Climbing a mountain consumes much more energy and endurance than running, especially under the influence of some limiting soul skills such as gravity, resistance, and deceleration. If you want to lift, just getting off your feet requires a lot of physical ability and strength. Shirgao's martial soul is the Black Tortoise, and most of his soul skills are defense-enhancing skills. But he has a soul skill that can release resistance to limit the opponent's approach. The training that Lu Bao and the others will receive later is to climb up the stone steps from the foot of the mountain under the interference of the resistance released by Shirgao until they reach the 300-meter high mountainside. During the process, they are not allowed to use soul skills and can only rely on themselves. Strength and stamina. Standing at the foot of the mountain, the students from the Tiendo Class 1 looked at the stone steps leading to the top of the mountain, their faces turning completely dark. They find running with a heavy tortoiseshell to be a very relaxing exercise compared to climbing a mountain under the restriction of resistance. Okay, cheer up. Remember, the most important thing for a soul master is soul power. But a powerful soul master definitely does more than just blindly cultivate soul power, temper your character, cultivate soul power, and exercise your body. This is a required course for you. As he spoke, Shirgao had already walked up the stone steps and arrived halfway up the mountain in less than a minute. He shouted to the foot of the mountain with his strong soul power. Stop dawdling. Get ready quickly. I'll count to 3. Sound, you just climb up as hard as you can. Today's requirement is to reach halfway up the mountain. The first one to climb halfway up the mountain will be rewarded generously. A thick and rough sound came quickly down the stone steps, and the forest plants on both sides of the stone steps were shaken by the sound wave and rustled. A dark green basalt turtle spirit of over 8 meters in size appeared like an illusion, and a total of 7 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black, lit up on Shirgao's body. Following the completion of the 6th soul skill, the stone steps halfway up the mountain were suddenly wrapped in a translucent aura. This translucent aura was swaying like water, extending from one point halfway up the mountain to the mountain. Feet. Seeing the stone steps covered with a soft and transparent color, Lu Haoli tentatively raised his feet and stepped on the stone steps. There was nothing special at first, But when he raised his feet and was about to step onto the second stone step, at that moment, an extremely huge resistance appeared in front of him, making it difficult for Lu Bao to move. With a body strengthened by various kinds of immortal grass, even without being possessed by a martial soul, Lu Bao could beat all the Shrek 7 monsters with their bare hands, which is a soul master. This is enough to prove that he is already a soul master under normal conditions. Wang's level and physical strength are particularly outstanding. If even he found it difficult to move forward, it would be even more difficult for others to endure this resistance and climb halfway up the mountain. Lu Bao, now you know why we think Teacher Shigao's class is hell, right? Oslo said bitterly. Performing physical exercise under this kind of restricted soul skill is like being tied to an extremely heavy stone. Jumping into the deep sea to swim is not only difficult to breathe, but every move consumes a huge amount of physical and soul energy. Leopard, what nonsense are you talking about? Come up quickly. Yu Qianheng had already stepped onto the second stone step and said with difficulty, El Bali is almost halfway up the mountain. Hearing this, Oslo looked up the stone steps. Lu Hao had actually reached the 10th stone step and was climbing halfway up the mountain step by step. I'll go? Is that guy a monster? Before Oslo could finish complaining, Yufeng, Shurimo, and others had already stepped onto the second level of stone steps. Yi Ling, Dugian, and other students followed closely. Back. 12, 13, 14, 20. When he reached the 20th floor of stone steps, Lu Bao found that his body was gradually adapting to this level of resistance. Without the use of martial arts and soul skills, it would be difficult to move under the resistance. However, he could use soul power to do so, strengthen the body's resistance, skillfully control the soul power to form an anti-stress film to offset the restriction of resistance. In this way, you can not only exercise your body under resistance, but also exercise your soul power at the same time. Lu Haoli suddenly remembered that when the soul ring was burned, the energy generated by the soul ring converged towards the body and caused an impact on the body. Isn't this impact very similar to the resistance I am experiencing at this moment? If you can adapt to the impact of resistance on your body, you may be able to adapt to the energy impact generated when the soul ring is burned. By enhancing your body's ability to withstand stress, you may be able to withstand the energy fusion brought about by the burning ring. Thinking of this, Lu Bao became interested in this resistance-limited physical exercise. He continued to use his soul power to enhance his body's toughness, and kept walking up the stone steps step by step. By the time he reached the 50th stone step, Lu Bao's soul power had been consumed by 1/3. In order to preserve his soul power to study the ring-burning technique tonight, he had no choice but to withdraw his soul power and rely only on his normal state to resist the resistance released by Shigao. As soon as the soul power that strengthened the body disappeared, Lu Bao felt like he was being pushed in front of him. His body couldn't help but fall backwards, and his feet subconsciously took a few steps back quickly to stabilize his body. LV Baoan, be careful. Yu Qianheng came to the position 10 stone steps away from Lu Baoan and reminded, the faster you walk, the faster your physical and soul power will be consumed. Before you reach the halfway point of the mountain, you will be gone. It is very likely that I will be pushed down the mountain by this resistance, and all my previous efforts will be wasted. Lu Baoyang nodded and looked up at Shigao, who was standing halfway up the mountain. He realized that this resistance should not be resisted with soul power, but with the body to bear it. As long as you adapt to the limitations of resistance, the higher the pressure your body can withstand, the stronger your ability to withstand stress. Under the pressure of resistance, the parts of the body exercised by mountain climbing will also become more powerful. In other words, you should not climb up in a hurry, but stay under the pressure of this resistance for a longer time, so that the body will have more time to adapt to the impact of this resistance. By then, there is no need to use soul power to assist. You can also climb to the top of the mountain. Adhering to this idea, Lu Bao stopped on the spot and slowly relaxed his body. He tried not to use his strength to resist the surging resistance in front of him, but to use his most relaxed body to bear the impact of the resistance. At first, his body would be affected by the resistance and take a few steps back, and then back again. Lu Bao finally stabilized himself without using his soul power, and could lift his feet to step on the higher stone steps. Chapter 101 Walking Hand in Hand 50. 51. 60. By the time he reached the 70th floor, his body had become accustomed to the intensity of the resistance. He no longer backed away. His ugly face had improved, and it became easier to walk up the stone steps. In addition, Lu Bao found that the closer to the mountainside, the greater the resistance. Now he was 30 steps ahead of everyone. Lu Badai did not rush up, but stopped where he was, taking back all the force exerted on his body and putting his body in the most relaxed state to withstand the impact of resistance. This would increase the body's resistance to pressure faster. Finally, Yu Tianheng, Duguyin, Osluo, Yufeng, Shurimo, and Yi Lingling exhausted all their soul power and physical strength and arrived at the stone level where Lu Bao was. The other students were still staying. On the 40th floor, there was no way to climb up. Those who have little physical strength and soul power left can use martial arts and soul skills to climb up, but this means that you have failed this practical class. When you go to class next time, you will not only have to continue today's training, but you will also be punished extra run. I advise you not to force yourself. Otherwise, your soul and physical strength will be exhausted, and you will be pushed down the mountain by this resistance, and you will be injured by then. Gao's voice came down from halfway up the mountain. After hearing this prompt, some students hesitated, but most students chose to give up, activate their martial arts, and use soul skills to help them climb up the mountainside. Seeing one after another students passing by with martial spirits possessed or assisted by soul skills, Oslo's heart was shaken, and he said to Yu Tianheng and others, "How about we also use martial spirits? We are still more than halfway to the mountainside. And now our physical and spiritual energy is almost exhausted, and it is impossible to complete the training. Lingling, can you still hold on?" Yufeng looked at Yi Lingling behind him. Yi Lingling nodded with difficulty, lost consciousness, and was almost pushed down the stone steps by the resistance. Fortunately, he was supported by the two brothers Shurimo and Shurimo. "Yin Yin, let me help you." Yu Qianheng looked at Duguyin and said with concern, "This can save some energy. Otherwise, you won't be able to climb halfway up the mountain." "No need." Duguyin refused his kindness. Hearing this rejection, Yu Qianheng felt a sour feeling in his heart, just like Duguyin's rejection of his confession half a year ago. Oslo said, "Sister Yinzi, why don't you give up with us? Your physical strength and soul power are almost gone. If you persist, you won't be able to exercise at all." Duguyin looked at Lu Baoyan, who was walking at the front, gritted his teeth, and said, "I want to go up." After hearing their conversation, Lu Bao finally turned around and looked over. Seeing Duguyin's weak and forbearing state at this time, he couldn't help but frown. As Oslo said, his physical strength and soul power were about to be exhausted. What was the point of persisting? The purpose of this resistance and mountain climbing training is to enhance endurance, physical strength, and soul power control. If these are gone, then using martial arts to climb halfway up the mountain like other students, giving up today's training is the wisest decision. Yinzi Leopard is right, Lu Baoyan advised. You should use your martial arts. If you fail today, the worst is to try again tomorrow. No, I want to go up. Duguyan's eyes were full of determination. Lu Liang had long known that Duguyin was a stubborn person, so how could she give up so easily on something she believed in? After thinking about it, Lu Baolan stopped trying to persuade him and stretched out his hand to Duguyin. "Here, grab my clothes." Seeing the extended hand, a smile suddenly appeared on Duguyin's ugly face. She stepped up the 2 stone steps against the huge resistance and grabbed Lu Bao's arm. "You don't need to use your soul power. I'll drag you away." Lu Bao said, "Since you want to go up, let's go together." Duguyin nodded in agreement, and the small hand holding Lu Bao's arm quietly slid down, then slid down, until it reached the palm of Lu Bao's hand. The two held hands and stepped forward against resistance, walking along the stone steps halfway up the mountain. Seeing this scene, not only Yu Tianheng, but also Oslo and the others were stunned. "I'll go. What's going on with Yin Zi and Lu Bao Bao?" After saying this, Yu Feng realized what was going on. He immediately looked at Yu Tianheng and stopped talking. At this time, Yu Tianheng felt extremely complicated. He knew what was going on with these two people when Douluo Yin rejected him half a year ago. Last time Lu Bao went back to the academy, Douluo Yin threw herself into his arms regardless of everyone's attention. Are they both so blatant now? Holding hands and exercising together in front of everyone? Just gritting his teeth unwillingly, Yu Qianheng's complicated emotions were calmed down. This was good. At least he could decisively give up on Douluo Yin, one of the twin stars of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect. If he didn't want any woman, why bother with unrequited love? A flower? It's a pity that the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect's plan to win over Douluo Bo Poison Douluo came to nothing, and I don't know how to explain it when I return to the sect. Osluo, Yufeng, and Graphite Shimo were even more shocked. As bystanders, they could actually see that Douluo Yin and Lu Bao had an unusual relationship, but they didn't expect that the two people who had always been at odds would be involved today. Let's start walking together. Yi Lingling's mood was as complicated as Yu Tianheng's. She couldn't describe her feelings. She just saw Lu Baoyan extending his hand to Douluo Yin, but the stubborn Douluo Yin grabbed Lu Baoyan's hand without hesitation. Yi Lingling's heart felt heavy, and his face looked a little sad. Lingling, what's wrong? Sure Mo, who was supporting Yi Lingling, asked with concern. Yi Lingling shook his head, covering his heavy chest, and saying nothing. Lu Baoyan just wanted Douluo Yin to grab his sleeve so that he could drag her to the top of the mountain. But he didn't expect Douluo Yin to make such a decision. His hands slid down step by step until they reached the palm of his hand. If you shake Douluo Yin's hand away at this time, it will hurt people's self-esteem too much. However, what would Yu Tianheng think if he didn't let go? What would Yi Lingling think when he saw this scene? Can we still get along well with her in the future? These questions are far more difficult to figure out than the battle situation to be analyzed during the battle. Lu Baoyang didn't want to think too much. Now that the matter was at this point, he could only hold Douluo Yin's hand tightly and accompany her to climb halfway up the mountain to help her complete what she was determined to do. Because she is already his own, how can he not spoil someone who belongs to him? Halfway up the mountain, including Yu Tianheng, Osluo, Yi Lingling, and others. All the students gave up today's training content and used martial arts and soul skills to pass through the resistance and reach halfway up the mountain. Only Lu Baoyan and Douluo Yin were left walking upward against the resistance. After a long time, under the protection of Lu Baoyan, Douluo Yin arrived safely halfway up the mountain. At this time, her physical strength and soul were exhausted, and she was very weak. Although she did not rely on herself, she finally made it up. Yu Tianheng and Osluo sat on the ground. Watching Lu Baoyan and Douluo Yin walking up, they couldn't help but start chatting. Captain, that's good. You don't have to pretend to be a gentleman in front of Sister Yinzi anymore. Oslo smiled and said, on this day off, do you want to go to the city to have some fun? Yu Tianheng still looked at Lu Baolan with unwillingness in his eyes. After a moment of silence, he smiled with relief. Baozi, thank you for your comfort. You finally stopped talking nonsense. Oslo asked curiously, do you think Lu Haoli apologized to you? What? Yu Tianheng was confused. Will he apologize to you for what happened to Sister Yinzi? Oslo asked again. What did you say? Yu Tianheng smiled a little reluctantly. What is there to apologize for? Yin Yin is not my person. It is normal for them to have sex between men and women. Why should you apologize to me? Just like you said, Sister Yinzi is not yours. Oslo said. You and Lu Baoyang are standing on the same starting line to chase Sister Yinzi. No, it should be said that Lu Baoyang is on the starting line, and you have run a long way, but in the end you still failed to beat him, and he has no reason to apologize to you. Thunder and lightning flashed in Yu Tianheng's hand. Leopard, can you speak? Oslo continued. Moreover, Lu Baoli cannot apologize. If he apologizes, it will prove that he has a knot in his heart and thinks he is the one who robbed you. In that case, the friendship between you will deteriorate. It may even cause, and there is a gap. He is such a smart person, it is impossible for him to do such a stupid thing. You don't need to say it anymore. I understand everything. Yu Tianheng put away the thunder and lightning in his hand, sighed, and said, I don't blame Lu Bao. Really, I don't blame him at all. I just can't understand. He is a commoner with no money and no power. He was an auxiliary soul master whose talent was worse than mine at the beginning. How am I inferior when compared with him? Do you think I am handsome? Handsome. Oslo nodded. How about compared with Lu Bao? Better than him, not as handsome as me. I didn't ask you. Yu Qianheng said angrily. I am still the grandson of the third sect master in the world. I know all this, Oslo said openly. Captain, do you know that when you entered school, your behavior was really arrogant and arrogant? You always thought that you were the grandson of the third sect leader. The genius of the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus dragon sect looked down upon us. I saw you were very unhappy at that time. Yu Tianheng interrupted Oslo and said, just answer whatever I ask. No need to express yourself freely. We are all brothers now, so I have to confess to you. Oslo said seriously, when Lu Baoli first entered school, didn't we target him together to see if he was unhappy? We are all brothers now. Well, there are some things that we should talk about as brothers, aren't we? Yu Tianheng laughed. You are right. After all, we are still brothers. Isn't it just a woman? How can it be more important than a brother? Seeing Yu Tianheng completely relieved, Osluo smiled evilly and said, Captain, didn't you meet those beauties from the Tianshui team last time at the Tiando Soul Fighting Arena? What do you think of their Captain Shui being your Ice Phoenix martial spirit? Like your blue electric Tyrannosaurus, they are both top-notch beings in their respective fields. We had made an appointment for another team battle before. Don't you have any thoughts about her? Leopard, you reminded me. Yu Qianheng suddenly became interested. The female soul master named Shui Yuer from the Tianshui team seems to have ideas about me. How about I go and propose to them another day that the two academies come together? A social event? Tomorrow's update will be at 8 p.m. Chapter 102, heading to Death Canyon after lunch break. The bell rang on time, and the students gathered in the classrooms or playground of the college. The afternoon course is about mimicry practice, and the class location is at the top of the mountain. After teacher Shi Gao's resistance and mountain climbing training in the morning, Lu Bao felt severe soreness all over his body. It seemed that the grass jelly only improved a person's qualifications and physique, allowing the user to have a different physical quality than ordinary people, rather than being invincible. The effect of resistance and mountain climbing training is very significant. At the end of the day, after taking a nap at noon, Lu Bao's sore body actually felt like his meridians were unblocked and stronger. If you do this kind of training often, your body might be able to withstand it soon. The energy impact caused by burning the ring. Arriving at the mimicry training ground on the top of the mountain, Yu Tianheng, Osluo, and others rushed to a suitable venue for themselves. Lu Baolon and Yi Lingling walked together toward the grassland mimicry field near the dean's building. While walking, Lu Baolon was also paying attention to the expression on Yi Lingling's face. During the resistance and mountain climbing training, he led Duguyen to climb halfway up the mountain under the gaze of everyone. The other students may only think that teammates help each other. It was a normal thing, but only the members of the Imperial fighting team knew that the relationship between Lu Baoyan and Duguyen was definitely unusual. During the lunch break, Yu Qianheng had already confessed a lot to Lu Baoyan in the dormitory and said that he would not object to Duguyen's matter, and he had no right to object. Osluo, Yufeng, and Shimo also knew about this. Therefore, Lu Baoyan felt that Yi Lingling should also know. Yi Lingling's delicate face is obviously very beautiful, but she always doesn't have much expression. She was still like this today, but Lu Baoyang always felt that there was something wrong with the atmosphere between them, and it seemed that it was not as harmonious as before. Just when Lu Baolon fell into silence, Yi Lingling's voice suddenly sounded. Did you and Yin Yin start a relationship a year ago? No, Lu Baoyan answered truthfully, recently. Because I got to know Yinzi's grandfather. I often go to her grandfather's house to play and occasionally bump into Yinzi at home. Gradually, our relationship deepened. So that's it. Yi Lingling recalled what happened before taking Lu Bao to the Tiando auction house and asked curiously, did you and Yin Yin's grandfather meet at the auction house that day? Lu Hao nodded and wanted to explain something, but he didn't speak. He felt there was no need to explain. You have to be brave enough to do things. Doesn't explaining it mean denying the relationship with Duguyen? Congratulations. Yi Lingling congratulated. Yin Yin is very stubborn, and the same is true when it comes to relationships. But she will never give up easily on anyone she likes. Don't let her down. Seeing Yu Lingling speaking with a calm face and a gentle tone, still as calm as usual, Lu Baoyang didn't know whether he was happy or sad. The two came to the grassland mimicry field. Yi Lingling looked into Lu Bao's eyes and hesitated to speak. What she had experienced with Lu Bao a year ago was still vivid in her mind. At the beginning, when Lu Baoyang joined the team, he showed excellent assisting ability, which caused Yi Lingling to fall into confusion and face the first frustration and anxiety in her life. Finally, she regained her composure under the guidance of Lu Baoyang. When he teamed up with Yu Tianheng and had a two-person soul battle with Lu Baoyan and Duge Yin, Yu Tianheng suffered his first defeat due to his limited assist ability. This made Yi Lingling doubt his assist ability again and fell into confusion and self-blame. In the end, it was only with the encouragement given by Lu Bao that he was completely relieved. Then there was the experience of accompanying Lu Bao to the Tiando auction house to buy soul tools, and the trust he had in him during the soul fighting in the Great Soul Fighting Arena. Over time, Yi Lingling developed a special feeling for Lu Bao. She couldn't explain what it felt like. She only knew that she was willing to follow Lu Bao wherever he was. She chose to believe everything Lu Bao said. During the battle, she carried out all the orders given by Lu Bao without hesitation. Every time she and Lu Bao were together, she, who usually didn't like to talk, would always take the initiative to find some topics to talk about, so as not to make the atmosphere between them too cold. Lu Baoyang is also the only one who knows that her apparent strength and indifference are mostly pretended. In fact, when she is hit or has various negative emotions, she also needs others to comfort and encourage her, and she also needs others to heal her. During the mountain climbing training in the morning, the man who was willing to heal her held the hands of other girls and walked together. Seeing this scene, Yi Lingling felt empty in her heart, as if she had lost something and was extremely dull. There is no way to cure such a dull mood. She couldn't express this helplessness and pain, so she covered it up with a plain face, a calm emotion, and a calm tone. At this moment, Yi Lingling only had one thought, and that was to stop letting Lu Bao see her true feelings and to stop asking him for anything. Because he already belongs to someone else, I must keep a distance from him. I have always envied Yin Yin because she is very bold. No matter whether she can do what she wants to do, she will do it with determination. The same is true for you, so I am not surprised that you can get together. Yi Lingling looked into Lu Bao's eyes and said firmly, I don't like to talk, but if one day I meet someone I like, I will speak out loud and won't hide it like you. Really? Lu Bao smiled. I'm looking forward to that day. You are practicing, you should go as well. After saying that, Yi Lingling walked to a flower bush and sat down, closing his eyes and meditating. Seeing Yi Lingling using the aura of the surrounding plants to help him practice, Lu Baopali sighed inwardly. Although Yi Lingling still got along with him on the surface, it was just a superficial show. In fact, there was a gap between them. After all, Yi Lingling is not a game character or NPC. When she traveled to this world, everything that existed in this world was real. Yi Lingling was also a flesh-and-blood person with her own view of emotions. Without any special conditions to promote it, she saw that she was getting along with other girls. The first reaction must be to try to distance yourself from the relationship. If you want to get back together with her, there is no use in explaining. You can only hope for some kind of opportunity to come. When that opportunity comes, maybe the barrier between you and Yi Lingling can be broken and the relationship between them can be further developed. El Bao Bao. A familiar call came from behind. Lu Bao turned around and saw that the person calling him was Shui Qingyi, who had just walked out of the door of the dean's building. Your Highness, is something wrong? Lu Beauly thought. Shui Qingyi must have captured a soul beast like the Shadow Lord when he came to find him. Shui Qingyi smiled faintly and said nothing, but his eyes gave an answer that satisfied Lu Baolan. The next day morning, the entrance to Tiando City. Lu Baolan and Shui Qingyi took an express train at the city gate and headed southwest. On the spacious official road, the carriage was speeding. Lu Baoli and Shui Qingyi were sitting in this carriage, facing each other without saying a word. Yesterday, Shui Qingyi told him that he had captured the Shadow Lord, And the place he was going to now was the habitat of soul beasts like the Shadow Lord, a dangerous area called Death Canyon. According to the news sent back by Gallic and Douluo, the Shadow Lord was born from a dark mountain forest full of darkness and evil atmosphere deep in the Death Canyon. The Shadow Lord's lower body is closely connected to the ground. Once it is forcibly removed, when its body is separated from the ground, it will die. If a soul master wants to absorb the soul ring of a soul beast, he must kill the soul beast himself. Therefore, in order to avoid accidentally killing the only Shadow Lord, the Douluo just maimed it and used the poison of the agouti to control it, making it unconscious and unable to resist. If Lu Haoli wanted to kill it with his own hands, he had to go to the dark place in Death Canyon. Therefore, Shui Qingyi decided to personally take Lu Bao to the Death Canyon to absorb the soul ring. Light and darkness restrained each other, while holiness and evil were in opposition to each other. The Seraph Martial Soul has both light and sacred attributes. If she is by your side, you don't have to worry. In Death Canyon, you were attacked by a group of dark and evil soul beasts. After applying to Emperor Shui Yi to go out and searching for people's sentiments in major cities, Shui Qingyi did not take the palace guards with him, but asked Lu Liangli from Tiando Royal Academy to accompany him. Emperor Shui Yi learned from Prince Shui Xing that Lu Haoli was a powerful soul master. So he approved all of Shui Qingyi's applications and gave him a few months to go to major cities to find out the people's sentiments and share their worries. Solve problems for the people. In the carriage, Lu Baojun really couldn't bear the awkward atmosphere of sitting face to face without saying a word, so he decided to speak. Your Highness, what should I call you in the future? Shui Qingyi knew that Lu Baoli was asking. What should he call Qian Rinxue after she changes back to her? You are still His Highness the Crown Prince. Don't you want to call me by my name? Hearing these words, Lu Baohai also knew that Shui Qingyi was saying, from now on, whether she looks like Shui Qingyi or Qian Rinxue, he should call her Your Highness the Crown Prince. The Shui Qingyi in front of him was very talkative, and his conversation gave people a calm and generous feeling. It was very comfortable to chat with him. Not only did he not look like Qian Rinxue in the slightest, but his approachable feeling was very easy to accept. Lu Baolian was thinking that when facing Qian Rinxue, he could deal with her in a very unfriendly manner, but when facing Shui Qingyi, he was inexplicably polite. This felt too weird. After Teacher Qin Ming was replaced by Teacher Shi Gao, your Tiando Class 1's morning practical classes seemed to be different from before. Shui Qingyi suddenly said, What, is Teacher Shi Gao's training method still acceptable? Lu Bao nodded. It's acceptable. I'm just a little tired, but the training effect is very significant. Mountain climbing exercise under strong resistance is Teacher Shi Gao's unique teaching method. Shui Qingyi said, If you can persist for a few months, you will definitely thank him. In the morning, I finished handling all the affairs of the college. When I walked out of the dean's building, I happened to see your Tiando level class doing physical exercises on the mountainside. On the first day of training under this kind of resistance restriction, you can complete Teacher Shi Gao's requirements, which is enough to show that your physical strength is far beyond comparison. Lu Bao, you are right. You should have the 5th soul ring. You can leapfrog and absorb someone who is 50,000 years old. I underestimated you. Lu Bao smiled. I remember that besides you, Douluo also climbed halfway up the mountain under the influence of resistance, right? Shui Qingyi looked into Lu Baoyan's eyes and said curiously, When you were holding Douluo's hand and walking halfway up the mountain against the resistance, I happened to be watching with other students. The relationship between you and Douluo seems to be unusual. Ah! Hearing this, Lu Baolan was stunned. It would be better not to speak. The atmosphere became even more embarrassing. By the way, Your Highness, I lent you 300,000 gold soul coins last time, and I said I would pay it back 100 times. Here is a card with a limit of 30 million gold soul coins. If I pay you back now, we have settled everything. While talking, Lu Baobao took out a gold card from the Ring Soul Guide and handed it to Shui Qingyi. Looking at the gold card handed to her, Shui Qingyi's eyes fell on Lu Baoyan again. Of course, she knew that Lu Baoyan suddenly paid back the money because he wanted to change the topic related to Douluo. She didn't want to say that she didn't bother to ask, so she took the gold card. Shui Qingyi stopped talking. The carriage sped along. leaving the official road after half a day's journey, and arrived at the kingdom of Silvis. After getting off the bus, Lu Bao and Shui Qingyi came to Silvis City, the capital of the Silvis Kingdom. The reason for not rushing directly to Death Canyon was to hide her whereabouts. After going out and away from the Tiando Empire, Qian Rinxue had to ensure that she was not noticed before she could take off her disguise. Changing from Shui Qingyi's appearance back to that of a woman, Qian Rinxue even changed her way of speaking back to the coldness before. Let's go. When we get to Death Canyon, there will be people from Wuhuan Palace to pick us up. A few days later, 100 kilometers away from Wuhuan City, there is a gloomy and mysterious valley called Death Canyon. This canyon is owned by Wuhuan Palace, but all soul masters from Wuhuan Palace are qualified to come in to hunt soul beasts. Soul masters who are not from Wuhuan Palace need to hold a certificate of development from Wuhuan Palace, and once they enter the canyon, life and death are determined by fate. Even if the imperial prince dies in the canyon, Wuhuan Palace will not be responsible. Therefore, under normal circumstances, there will only be soul masters from Wuhuan Palace in Death Canyon, and soul masters from other forces will basically hunt soul beasts in the Star Do Forest. Death Canyon has also become a training resource provided by Wuhuan Temple to soul masters. It not only contains powerful wild soul beasts that can be supplied as soul rings, but also provides soul masters with the best and most realistic mimicry training environment. Lu Baohai and Qian Rinxue traveled for more than 10 days and finally arrived at Death Canyon. Under the leadership of the spirit master of Wuhuan Palace, who was responsible for staying in the canyon, the two quickly arrived at a dark forest deep in the canyon. What is exposed in front of you is endless black, which is a kind of translucent black. Even without the need for lights, the naked eye can clearly see the surrounding dark environment. Walking in the dark mountain forest, Lu Bao felt a surge of heart. This was not the excitement in his heart, but the shadow martial soul felt a strong dark aura and was extremely active. Lu Bao was certain that training in this canyon, which was full of darkness, evil, and death, would be many times better than any mimicry training ground in Tiando Royal Academy. Chapter 103 Shadow Lord Death Canyon, such a dangerous place, is simply tailor-made for dark attribute soul masters or soul beasts. Maybe after absorbing the 5th soul ring, you can practice in Death Canyon for a while to see if you can raise your soul power to level 60 as soon as possible. While thinking about it, Lu Bao followed Qian Rinxue and several other spirit masters from the Spirit Hall into the dark forest in front of them. It is said that the Shadow Lord lives in a stone formation in the middle of the mountain forest. This mountain forest is so dark because it is affected by the dark aura released by the Shadow Lord. Although the Shadow Lord's lower body is tightly connected to the stone formation and cannot move normally like other soul beasts, the dark aura covering this mountain forest is like the Shadow Lord's hands, feet, and eyes. Once you step into the dark forest, no matter where you are, you will be within the Shadow Lord's attack range. The surrounding dark atmosphere will be controlled by the Shadow Lord, turning into sharp claws or strange attacks to attack the intruders. Unless you are a soul master or soul beast that is far more powerful than the Shadow Lord, you will undoubtedly have a narrow escape from death if you stray into the dark forest. Now that Gallican Douluo has disabled the Shadow Lord, there is no need to worry about a sneak attack from the dark aura covering this mountain forest. That's why Lu Bao and the others were able to go straight along the trail safely and boldly walk towards the stone formation in the middle of the forest. The destination has finally arrived. A slightly fat old man stood quietly on the left side of a semicircular stone formation, 2 yellow, 3 purple, and 4 black, with a total of 9 soul rings slowly rotating under his feet. The fat old man put his hands behind his back and stared solemnly at the unconscious giant soul beast in the stone formation. Lu Bao saw that the fat old man with 9 rings flashing was none other than Agatha Douluo. The giant soul beast in the semicircular stone formation is black and purple in color. Its body looks like a cobra, but it also looks like a monster formed by the fusion of a dragon and a snake. Its lower body is buried underground and tightly connected to the ground. At this time, this giant spirit beast that resembled a dragon was already covered in wounds and was in a comatose state. That should be the Shadow Lord. After bringing Lu Bao and Qian Rinxue to the side of Galileo Douluo, several Wuhuan Palace soul masters quickly left and returned to their posts to perform other tasks. Uncle Shui, is this the Shadow Lord? Qian Rinchua looked at the black-purple monster in the semicircular stone formation and said with some surprise, "It looks like a dragon-shaped soul beast." Young master, I sent someone to the Wuhuan Palace Library to check. According to an ancient book, the Shadow Lord is a subdragon soul beast with ancient bloodline and possesses both dark and evil attributes. It is composed of pure darkness and breeding from endless malice. Array Douluo took back the 9 flashing soul rings into his body and said, "The Wuhuan Palace has records about this kind of soul beast. The 5th soul ring of Ghost Douluo, the Ghost Elder, is to hunt down a 10,000-tail beast. He has been a Shadow Lord for thousands of years, so his 5th soul skill allows him to release a wide range of dark aura, greatly increasing his speed, and at the same time, he can control the surrounding darkness to form countless ghosts to interfere with the enemy, just like 100 ghosts walking at night. My subordinates believe that the martial spirit of this boy named Lu Liang is a shadow. In terms of attributes, the Shadow Martial Spirit is much more compatible with soul beasts such as the Shadow Lord than the Ghost Martial Spirit of Ghost Douluo. If he can absorb the shadow, the soul ring generated by the Lord will definitely give birth to an extremely powerful dark attribute soul skill. It's just, at this point, the Aguda looked at Lu Haoli and couldn't help but sneered. It's just the 5th soul ring to try to leapfrog and absorb a 50,000-year-old soul ring. You are simply asking for death. Lu Haoli looked back at the gaze of Galileo Douluo and said sternly, "My Majesty the Galileo Douluo, all you need to do is bring what I want of me. Don't worry about the rest." Boy, those who have wishful thinking will eventually pay the price. Aback Douluo said disdainfully, "Soul beasts have levels just like soul masters. When a soul beast reaches a cultivation level of more than 50,000 years, bloodline changes or improve more or less to become the king of the tribe. Do you know what it means to be a Shadow Lord for 50,000 years? Even a 70-level soul saint would not dare to say that the 7th soul ring can absorb the best soul ring that is 50,000 years old. I know that you can absorb the 4th ring that is 10,000 years old, but if you are naive enough to absorb 50,000 years, the 5th soul ring, you will die miserably." Greyfish Douluo, there is no need to talk nonsense. Thank you for reminding me, Lu Baoyang said with a hint of irony. My physical strength is far beyond your imagination. As a titled Douluo, your 5th soul ring is only a 1,000-year-old purple soul ring. How could you possibly imagine that my 4th soul ring is already a 10,000-year black ring talent? You! Killing intent suddenly flashed in the eyes of Elephant Douluo. Just when he was about to mobilize his soul power to give Lu Bao a blow, Qian Rinchua reached out to stop him. After glaring at Lu Baolei, Acornfish Douluo didn't care too much and said calmly, "When you are no longer of use to the young master, I will kill you without hesitation." "That's a pity," Lu Baolon said confidently. "Whether it is now or in the future, the value I have shown is higher than yours." "All right, Lu Bao, don't anger Uncle Shui anymore." Qian Rinchua looked at the Abyssin Douluo and asked, "The bloodline of the Shadow Lord is so powerful. Is there anything in the ancient books that needs to be paid attention to when absorbing soul rings?" "Place. There is no record in the ancient books. However, I heard that after the Ghost Elder killed the Shadow Lord at that time, he was counterattacked by the Shadow Lord's evil thoughts." The Gallican Douluo reported truthfully. This kind of soul beast has the innate ability to control darkness and evil. It can turn the place it goes into endless darkness, and it can also plant the seeds of darkness in the body of life, channeling the malice in the heart and make it dark. When the Ghost Elder killed the Shadow Lord, he was suddenly affected by the aura of darkness and evil, which caused the malice, hatred, and various dark sides deep in his heart to amplify infinitely. He eventually lost himself and became a dark and evil existence. Fortunately, your father was present at that time, and with the light and sacred aura of the Seraph Martial Spirit, he was able to eliminate the infinitely magnified darkness and evil thoughts in the Ghost Elder's heart. I asked you to come with me to prevent such an accident from happening." Lu Baoyang probably understood what the Aguda Douluo wanted to express. Soul beasts such as shadow lords have an innate aura guarding them. Once someone kills them, the person who kills them will be eroded by the aura of darkness and evil, and the dark side of the heart will be led to amplify and lose themselves, become an unconscious and unconscious body of evil thoughts. It is also called blackening. Looking at the Shadow Lord lying motionless on the ground in the center of the semicircular stone formation, Lu Haoli couldn't help but sigh. Soul beasts with dark attributes are really extraordinary. Can they guide the darkness and evil deep in their hearts? When you summon the Shadow Core, isn't it calling out the darkness within you? If the Shadow Lord's soul ring can be successfully absorbed, it will definitely bring an unexpected soul skill to the Shadow Martial Soul. While thinking about it, Lu Haoli was already walking towards the stone formation, possessed by the Shadow Martial Spirit. His strange eyes flashed with cold light, and the black energy surrounding his body condensed into a shadow-breaking gun. Arriving less than 5 meters in front of the semicircular stone formation, Lu Haoli discovered that the stone formation was actually 10 meters high, and the Shadow Lord lying in the center of the stone formation had a black and purple body as high as 4 meters. If he was standing upright, estimated to be 8 meters away. Just when Lu Haoli stabbed the shadow-breaking spear at the Shadow Lord's head, Qian Rinxue immediately shouted, "LV Baoyang, calm down first. Didn't you hear what Uncle Shui just said? The person who killed the Shadow Lord will be corroded by darkness and evil, and lose yourself." I know, didn't Elephant Douluo say that just now? Lu Haoli looked at Qian Rinxue and said with a smile, "The light released by your Seraphim spirit can help me erase those dark and evil auras. Infection, as long as you are here, nothing will happen to me." You. Qian Rinxue hesitated to speak. She paused for a moment before replying, "It's up to you. If I can't save you, then you will be a walking zombie for the rest of your life." Lu Haoli nodded, and the hand holding the shadow-breaking gun suddenly dropped, and the black gun tip stabbed the Shadow Lord's head with a violent sound of breaking through the air. Phew! Blood spattered in response, and under the attack of the shadow-breaking gun, the huge and ferocious-looking head of the Shadow Lord was penetrated, and the soul beast was killed by Lu Haoli. Suddenly, Lu Haoli's body was electrocuted, and he felt a numbness all over his body. Then his eyes became dim, and it seemed that he could clearly hear the thumping sound of his heart. As his consciousness completely fell into darkness, Lu Haoli's strange-colored pupils turned scarlet, and the black energy surrounding his body became denser, and a feeling of suffocation arose spontaneously. A large amount of darkness and evil aura surged out from the Shadow Lord's body, continuously converging towards Lu Haoli's body, completely wrapping him up, forming a humanoid black mist. The next moment, Lu Haoli, who was wrapped in the aura of darkness and evil, held his head in his hands and dropped the shadow-breaking gun to the ground. At the same time, the malice deep in Lu Haoli's heart continued to amplify. The oppression I endured when I first met Douluo, the threats I endured when making deals with the clan, and the intimidation I received from the 2 Douluo Snake Spear and Thorny Back Douluo when I first met Qian Rinxue. Lu Haoli's malicious experiences came to mind one after another. Suffering the backlash from the Shadow Lord's darkness and evil aura, Lu Haoli had only one thought at the moment, and that was to kill. Kill all those who have threatened him and made him unhappy. As this resentment continued to become stronger, Lu Haoli was losing his self-awareness little by little. Only when his brain was filled with hatred, resentment, anger, and all kinds of negative emotions deep in his heart did he want to understand the darkness and evil thoughts deep in my heart are being amplified little by little. Now, this evil thought has almost overwhelmed him, and his consciousness is almost on the verge of collapse. Seeing that Lu Haoli's whole body had been shrouded in thick black mist, holding his head and screaming like crazy, Aegis Douluo finally came to his senses. No, it's the evil thoughts that came back after the death of the Shadow Lord. Young Master, release the Seraph Martial Spirit quickly. Otherwise, it will be too late if that boy is completely swallowed up by evil thoughts and darkness. Tomorrow should also be updated at 10 p.m. I've been a little busy at work recently, so I can only code in the evening. Sorry, Chapter 10 for the 5th Soul Ring. When Qian Rinxue was about to release the Seraphim Spirit, Lu Haoli, who was in a state of madness, suddenly became calm. The darkness and evil aura surrounding his body was slowly dissipating, gradually revealing his body. The extremely scarlet eyes returned to strange pupils. He took 3 steps back to stabilize his figure. Lu Bao sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and concentrating on fighting against the evil thoughts that were constantly amplifying in his heart. The shadow spirit already possesses dark attributes, so when he was corroded by the darkness and evil aura after killing the Shadow Lord, Lu Haoli could use the dark aura of the shadow spirit to assimilate the dark aura of the Shadow Lord. In this way, you can rely on the mental power strengthened by seeing through the autumn due to fight against the remaining evil thoughts. The soul-eating ring and the pink ring worn on his left hand suddenly vibrated. In Lu Bai's spiritual world, the shadow-eating group and the poison shadow group, corresponding to the 2 rings, took the initiative to appear. Countless shadow-eating soldiers ate the poison shadow soldiers and turned into a huge black magic bead tens of meters long. At the same time, densely packed ghost soldiers escaped from the sky. Ghost Shadow Group, Poison Shadow Group, Shadow Devouring Group. The figures of the 3 Black Shadow Corps almost filled up Lu Haoli's spiritual world, preventing the ever-increasing evil thoughts from occupying any space in his spiritual world. With the help of the 3 Shadow Corps, Lu Haoli's spiritual world finally returned to stability. His evil thoughts were suppressed by the constant appearance of the Shadow Corps and could no longer be amplified. Taking a deep breath, Lu Bao felt that his brain was relaxed. The anger in his heart gradually subsided. His face improved, and the black energy surrounding his body was no longer dense. Seeing this scene, Galileo Douluo was extremely surprised. Lu Bao didn't need to rely on the light and sacred attributes of the Seraph Spirit to fight against the evil backlash of the Shadow Lord. The physical strength and mental power that can absorb the 4th soul ring of 10,000 years is indeed beyond his imagination. Just 5 seconds after Qian Rinxue and Cavalry Douluo showed their surprise, Lu Baobai's body had returned to normal, and there was no longer any evil thoughts in the spiritual world. The Shadow Core disappeared, and the brain that had been counterattacked by the Shadow Lord's evil thoughts restored the previous calm. After taking a long breath, Lu Bao opened his eyes, stood up, patted his forehead hard, and then secretly activated his soul power. There was no abnormality in his body. It seemed that the evil thoughts of the Shadow Lord had been completely suppressed. Lu Baoan, are you okay? Qian Rinxue asked. It's okay. After replying, Lu Haoli walked to sit down next to the dead Shadow Lord and activated his soul power to guide the Shadow Lord's soul ring out. A faint black light began to be released from the Shadow Lord, entering Lu Bao's body through his skin. At this time, the Shadow Martial Spirit, which was 10 meters high, spread out like an illusion behind Lu Baoyang, covering the already dark forest with a layer of black. The moment the black airflow released from the Shadow Lord came into contact with the Shadow Spirit behind Lu Baoyang, a creepy aura erupted in his body, setting off a dark wind around the semicircular stone formation. The soul ring energy generated by the 50,000-year-old Shadow Lord was like a wave and instantly submerged Lu Haoli's consciousness, and his body suffered the violent impact of the soul ring energy. This is no exaggeration. The energy of the soul ring has filled every corner of Lu Bai's body, and he doesn't even need to operate it himself. The huge energy has been forced to operate. With the physical fitness strengthened by the 2 immortal grasses of ice and fire, and the elixir of the strange velvet and sky chrysanthemum, and the mental strength enhanced by the autumn water dew, and these days of studying the burning ring and undergoing resistance and mountain climbing exercises, the body's ability to withstand stress has improved. Promotion. These conditions are enough for Lu Bao to absorb soul rings beyond the next level. Yet this is also true. With such strong physical strength and mental power, he was very easy to absorb the Shadow Lord's soul ring. Yellow, purple, black. The 4 soul rings lit up on Lu Baoyang's body one after another, and the Shadow Martial Spirit floated quietly behind him. The concrete black figure stood like a statue, seeming to protect Lu Baoyang and prevent him from being attacked by the Shadow Lord again. Evil thoughts come back. During the process of absorbing, Lu Haoli had a feeling that he had never experienced before. When he was on his fourth soul ring, he skipped the level and absorbed the 15,000-year-old soul-eating demon bead soul ring. With the fusion of martial souls, his mental power is also being eroded by the resentment of the soul-eating magic beads, and his body is constantly being strengthened under the impact of the soul ring energy. In addition to these feelings after absorbing the Shadow Lord's soul ring this time, there is also an alternative feeling. That is, the evil thoughts deep in his heart are constantly amplifying with the fusion of the soul ring and martial soul. In this case, the Shadow Lord's resentment was still lingering, and he intended to use the evil thoughts residing in the soul ring to completely defeat Lu Haoli's consciousness and then seize his body. Lu Haoli, who was absorbing the soul ring of the Shadow Lord at the moment, felt as if a devil was whispering in his ear, constantly encouraging him to abandon the shackles in his heart, take revenge on those who couldn't stand it, and let those who had once all the soul masters who had threatened him were dead. After having his first experience of fighting against evil thoughts, Lu Haoli became more comfortable with them. Faced with these evil thoughts, he chose to endure them again and again. Lu Liang would not hate Douluo, Yang Wudi, Snake Spear, and Acorn Douluo who had put him in crisis before, because he provoked them in order to achieve his goal. Now he and Douluo have become trusting comrades in arms, and Yang Wudi has also become like-minded medicine buddies. Now, Acornfish Douluo is also used by him to help him hunt soul-killing beast. Although I have encountered many life and death situations and been oppressed by others, didn't the final result always develop in a direction that is beneficial to me? In the future, we might have to rely on Douluo, Snake Spear, and Acornfish to hunt down the dark demon evil god tiger together. So why should we hate them? Thinking of this, the anger, hatred, murderous thoughts, and all kinds of malice in Lu Haoli's heart faded away, and the resentment of the Shadow Lord's soul ring could no longer guide him with any malice. Just when Lu Liang's mental power was about to completely eliminate the resentment of the Shadow Lord, the Shadow Lord changed its strategy. It no longer lured Lu Liang's inner malice, but instead lured him to have evil thoughts about the opposite sex. In the spiritual world, what appeared in front of Lu Haoli was no longer the powerful men like Douluo and Yang Wudi who had threatened his life, but a scene that made people's blood boil. Douluo, whose youthful body is clearly visible, appears in Lu Haoli's spiritual world. Her charming eyes are as bright as lightning, and her very beautiful but somewhat sultry voice echoes in his ears. Every move makes Lu Haoli's blood boil. The desire is burning in the heart. Immediately afterwards, Yi Lingling, whose whole body was clearly visible, appeared in the spiritual world, on either side of Douluo, posing and seducing Lu Haoli with all kinds of teases that made the man unable to control himself, messing with his mind. He could tolerate all this, but until the half-dressed Qian Rinxue also appeared in the spiritual world, Lu Haoli was about to fall. Three stunning beauties used their stunning bodies to seduce him in stunning ways. Evil thoughts teased his sensitive parts, making him confused and burning with desire. Under the temptation of the evil thoughts of the Shadow Lord's soul ring, Lu Haoli was still enduring. His willpower was extremely firm to resist the test of beauty, and his body was also undergoing the transformation of the soul ring's energy. Lu Haoli knew clearly that once he withstood the evil thoughts of the Shadow Lord's soul ring, he would not only get a top-quality dark attribute soul ring, but the Shadow Martial Soul would also have an additional evil attribute. Therefore, he must not be affected by beauty in the spiritual world, otherwise he will die without a burial place. About half an hour later, Lu Haoli's willpower was not defeated. His mind and body were simultaneously eroded by the resentment and energy transformation of the Shadow Lord's soul ring. He only suffered from slight bleeding symptoms. Qian Rinxue, who was staying at the side, noticed that Lu Haoli was bleeding from the nose and couldn't help but worry. Uncle Shui, he seems to be injured. It should be that his body was damaged when he was transformed by the soul ring energy. It seems that he was too reluctant to leapfrog and absorb the fifth soul ring that was 50,000 years old. The array, Douluo put his hands behind his back and said calmly, "Young master, It is an ominous sign to be injured when absorbing the soul ring. I'm afraid this boy is in danger. As soon as the voice fell, a change appeared on Lu Haoli, who was absorbing the soul ring at the side. In addition to the original 4 yellow, purple, and black soul rings, there was another black soul ring in the number of soul rings that were beating up and down on his body. Chapter 105, the 5th soul skill, Shadow Contract. The absorption was successful. The calm face of the geyser showed a hint of surprise, seeing the 5 soul rings on Lu Haoli's body flashing, and there were 2 yellow, 1 purple, and 2 black. How could he not be surprised? With the combination of 2 yellow and 3 purple soul rings, I can cultivate to the realm of titled Douluo. With the combination of 2 yellow, 1 purple, and 2 black soul rings like Lu Haoli, his future achievements will definitely far exceed those of titled Douluo, and he may even become a 90-year-old Douluo, a 9th level peerless Douluo. In the past 100 years, there have been only 3 peerless Douluo on the mainland, and these top beings are all leaders of some powerful force. Thinking of this, Cavalry Douluo couldn't help but admire Qian Rinchua's vision. She was really high. Uncle Shui, it seems that Lu Haoli has passed the most difficult period. Qian Rinchua finally let go of her worries and said with a faint smile, then he only needs to wait for the soul ring to fully integrate with his body, and he can obtain 5 the 5th soul ring of 10,000 years. Yes, young master, you are right. A back Douluo sighed. This boy named Lu Haoli can always bring you surprises. It's great that such a peerless genius can be used by you. Hearing the porpoise's admiration, Qian Rinchua's cold face showed a smile and reminded, Uncle Shui, don't think too easily of Lu Haoli. I used to think that he was a man who was greedy for money and status, but later I realized that I was wrong. He doesn't care about fame and fortune. He only cares about the improvement of his strength. Lu Haoli did not submit to me because he wanted to be the leader in Wuhuan Palace. He has a position of power above 10,000 people, but he wants to improve his own strength through various training resources in Wuhuan Palace. To put it bluntly, Lu Haoli is actually using me, just like I am thinking about how to use him in the future. After hearing these words, Aguda Douluo was enlightened and a chill suddenly appeared in his eyes. Young master, since you know that he is using you, why do you still let him use you? What's the point? Qian Rinchua said, his strength is still too weak now. Doesn't it suit me that he uses me to improve his strength? I hope he can become a titled Douluo soon, so that the value is fully realized. The array Douluo said with a gloomy expression. But aren't you afraid that when we are both titled Douluo, you will lose to him and be unable to suppress him? Qian Rinchua smiled confidently. Even if I have neglected my cultivation now because of the lurking plan, if I concentrate, no one can practice faster than me. I have a way to control him today, and I will naturally have a way in the future. Just when the two of them had just finished chatting, the Shadow Lord's soul ring spinning around Lu Haoli's body no longer released its ferocious aura. The resentment attached to the soul ring was eliminated, and the energy of the soul ring filled Lu Haoli's body. The soul ring of the Shadow Lord was fused with the Shadow Soul, giving birth to the 5th soul skill, which also gave the Shadow Soul evil attributes. After accepting the transformation of his body by the energy of the soul ring, Lu Haoli felt his whole body suddenly light up, and his whole body was filled with a sense of strength and fullness. The skyrocketing soul power overflowed from his body, forming 5 circles of ripples that spread outward. The level broke through the bottleneck, and the soul power increased from level 50 to level 55. The 5th soul ring was successfully absorbed. Lu Haoli took a deep breath. His brain was calmer than ever before, and his range of perception became wider. It seemed that his mental power had been greatly improved. As a soul beast with evil attributes, the Shadow Lord can guide the evil thoughts in the hearts of living beings to turn them into darkness. Its intelligence is not much inferior to that of humans. It is also a 50,000-year-old intelligent soul beast, so when the soul ring energy strengthens the body, it can also greatly strengthen the mental attributes. Carefully feeling the changes in every part of his body, a brand suddenly appeared in Lu Haoli's mind, which was the relevant information about the 5th soul ring skill. The 5th soul skill, Shadow Contract. When an enemy is possessed by a shadow contract, a black word shadow will be engraved on a random part of the enemy's body, and the seeds of darkness will be planted to conclude a contract with the Shadow Lord. The caster can consume his own soul power to guide the malice in the heart of the person with the shadow contract engraved on him, turning him into darkness. When the caster consumes 1/3 of the soul power, the person with the shadow contract will turn black, thus gaining strength far beyond the original, and will be controlled by the caster. When the caster consumes 2/3 of the soul power, the malice in the heart of the person with the shadow contract will merge with his own shadow to form a dark form and separate from the body to become an independent shadow person. It can be said that the 5th soul skill, Shadow Contract, is a changing skill that will produce different soul skill effects based on the amount of soul power consumed by the user. But there are only 2 general soul skill effects. One is to darken the living body, thereby stimulating its full potential and temporarily gaining stronger power. The life form in the blackened state will obey the orders of the caster. The other is to fuse the inner malice of the living body with the shadow and separate from the living body to form an independent shadow person, which is the dark form of the living body. This state will also obey the orders of the caster. The 5th soul skill, Shadow Contract, has obvious advantages and disadvantages, and the advantages are naturally reflected in the effects of the soul skill. The disadvantage is that it consumes a lot of soul power. Each time the 5th soul skill is used, the soul power required is 1/3 of the total soul power. In the full state, it can only be used 3 times at most before the soul power is exhausted. In addition, the 5th soul skill has a shortcoming. The word shadow, engraved on the body of a living body by the shadow contract, can be erased. Once the word shadow disappears from the living body, the caster will not be able to do anything to the living body. Cause control. When a life form with holy and light attributes has much higher spiritual power than the caster, it can erase the word shadow engraved on its body, or it can remove the shadow by cutting off the body part where the word shadow is located. Date. In addition, if the soul power level of the caster and the enemy is too different, it will not be able to control the enemy with shadow contract, and it will forcibly control the enemy whose strength is much higher than the caster. If the enemy's mental power is also higher than the caster, he will not be affected by the shadow contract. The caster controls, but will have the power of blackening. After understanding the effect of the 5th soul skill, Lu Bu thought to himself that if the 5th soul skill consumes a huge amount of soul power, it would not be able to affect multiple people at the same time like the 2nd soul skill Shadow Attack. He must study it carefully when he has time. This soul skill is practical only. The shadow martial soul was withdrawn into the body, and Lu Haoli stood up, one soul ring after another slowly rising from his feet. Yellow, yellow, purple, black, black. The 5 soul rings moved up and down the body, emitting their own light and aura. After finishing absorbing the 5th soul ring, Lu Haoli's attention has fallen on the shadow of the Shadow Lord's corpse. Since its soul ring has been taken away, its power must also be taken away. The Shadow Lord is powerful not only in its ability to control darkness and evil, but its main means of attack are its 2 huge claws. The Shadow Lord's claw is a weapon made of a mixture of dark and evil elements. It has slowing and corrosive effects, and has super penetrating power and aggressiveness. Currently, he has 5 soul rings, which means he can bind 5 shadows of the dead. The Ghost Shadow Group, the Scorpion Shadow Group, the Poison Shadow Group, and the Shadow Devouring Group have been created. Now it's time to create a Claw Shadow Group based on the Shadow Lord. With 5 soul rings, the Summoned Shadow Army will inherit 50% of the power of the Shadow General. In other words, the strength of each Claw Shadow Group summoned by a Shadow Lord with 50,000 years of cultivation is comparable to that of a Soul Beast with a cultivation level of about 20,000 years. Just when Lu Liang was trying to release the Shadow Tomb domain and seal the shadow of the Shadow Lord's corpse in the domain, a strange scene appeared. The Shadow Lord's head, which had been pierced by the shadow-breaking gun, suddenly flashed with light. The next moment, this light broke through the Shadow Lord's head and slowly floated into the sky, releasing a dazzling black light. Lu Haoli saw that it was a bone-like object that exuded a unique aura, and there was black air flowing between the gaps in the bone. If the object that appears on the body of a dead soul beast can emit light from the inside out and contains the aura of soul power, if it is not a soul ring, there is only one possibility. It is a soul bone. I'll update again tomorrow night. The updates have been a bit slow these days. I'm really sorry. Chapter 106 Shadow Mask Bone Soul Bone. Seeing this black bone-like object slowly floating into the sky, the three people present almost exclaimed at the same time. Lu Haoli was closest to the Shadow Lord's corpse, so he felt the soul bone aura the strongest and could see it most clearly. The shape of the soul bone is like a black mask that covers the entire face. The patterns on the mask outline a face that is both human and inhuman. It does not give people a very scary feeling, but it is unusually mysterious. Staring at this black mask, I always feel a chill will run down your spine, and you will feel a chilling, oppressive feeling. Before Lu Haoli could react, Guillotine Douluo had already sucked the mask's soul bone into his palm with his soul power. After examining the soul bone for a few times, Agatha Douluo showed a sly smile, handed it to Qian Rinxue, and said excitedly, "Young master, the shape seems to be a head soul bone. 50,000 years old, the head soul bone produced by the Shadow Lord is already considered to be of the highest quality. Being able to obtain such a high-quality soul bone means that my hard work these days has not been in vain." Qian Rinxue took the black masked soul bone, and a dark aura instantly touched her palm, making her heart tremble. The energy contained in the soul bone was very huge. It was only a 50,000-year-old soul bone, but it had no less than the breath released by a 100,000-year-old soul bone. Moreover, this black soul bone that looks like a mask does not look like a head soul bone, because if it is a head soul bone, the moment you touch it, your mental power should be more or less affected by the breath of the soul bone. However, Qian Rinxue didn't feel any fluctuations in her mental power. Could it be that this head soul bone didn't enhance her mental attributes? After considering it for a moment, Qian Rinxue threw the masked soul bone to Lu Haoli. Seeing this scene, the usually calm Douluo suddenly widened his eyes with a look of surprise on his face. Seeing the masked soul bone falling into Lu Haoli's hands, he couldn't believe his eyes. "Young master, this soul bone is of the highest quality. Soul beasts like the Shadow Lord are inherently special beings, and the soul bones they produce must come with some special skill. How do you give it to that kid?" Hearing the objections of Arkham, Qian Rinxue explained calmly, "I still don't like the head soul bone that is only 50,000 years old. Moreover, this soul bone that contains darkness and evil aura is not suitable for me. But it is suitable for his shadow martial spirit. His fifth spirit ring happens to come from the same spirit beast, so absorbing this spirit bone for him can bring out all the potential value of this spirit bone." But a look of pity appeared on the face of aged Douluo. Qian Rinxue looked at the Aguda Douluo and asked, "Uncle Shui, do you still want this soul bone? My subordinate knows that his talent is insufficient. He has not broken through the 92nd level of soul power in 20 years. It is estimated that he can only stay here for the rest of his life. With such a low talent, what if he can have soul bones to help him?" Douluo said with a serious face, "I don't ask for soul bones, but as a soul master, I naturally have a love for soul bones. My objection is not because I am greedy for that soul bone, but because I hope that the young master can take it. Leave it to the people of Wuhuan Palace. The Ghost Elder's ghostly martial soul must also fit with that soul bone. Instead of giving it to an outsider, why not give it to an elder who has made great contributions to Wuhuan Palace? Almost 20 years have passed, and the Ghost Elder has still been unable to break through the bottleneck of level 95. Last time, my father gave him a leg bone to help him break through, but didn't he succeed in the end?" Qian Rinxue responded, "It can be seen that the Ghost Elder's talent has reached its limit. No matter how good the soul bone is given to him, his lifetime achievements will only be this. Then why waste resources on him? Uncle Shui, you have to know that only those with better value are qualified to receive better rewards. That woman clearly collected the 3 high-quality soul bones left by my father. Why didn't she give them to Elder Jugue instead? Is it left to Hulaina and the other 3? Qian Rinxue sighed and said, It's not because the potential value of Hulaina and the others is much higher than Elder Jugue. That woman uses the best resources of Wuhuan Palace to cultivate talents. Of course, I also need resources to cultivate the talents I'm optimistic about. After listening to Qian Renshue's explanation, Galileo stopped retorting and said respectfully, I understand. After persuading the Ajetiga Doa, Qian Renshue was about to persuade Lu Baobao to absorb the soul bone quickly, but when she turned to look at Lu Baobao, she was slightly stunned. Lu Hao was already sitting cross-legged on the ground and was about to finish absorbing the masked soul bone. Seeing that the masked soul bone had been integrated into Lu Baoli's body and the black aura of the soul bone lingered around him, Qian Renshue was speechless for a while. The bastard was afraid that he would regret it, so he took advantage of the fact that he was talking to the abyss in Douluo. At that time, he secretly absorbed the soul bone and then killed it first. He was really a cunning person. It was just a curse in her heart. But Qian Renshue was not angry. After all, this soul bone was originally given to Lu Bao, so it was better to absorb it in advance and call it a day and go back. Qian Renshue didn't want to stay in this forest full of darkness and evil for too long. Whenever she encountered the dark atmosphere here, she always felt a sense of uneasiness, as if something deep in her heart was responding to the dark atmosphere. Call. After 10 minutes of absorption, Lu Baolei had integrated the black mask soul bone into his body. At this moment, a bone-like object that resembled a fang grew out of the chin on the left side of his face. The tip of the bone-like object grew toward the direction of the ear, and then secret numbing black patterns appeared one after another on the left side of the face. The patterns outlined a face that seemed human but not human, seemingly hiding a mystery. After a moment, the pattern on the left side of the face lit up with black light. During the flash of black light, it turned out to be a black mask condensed in a half of the face. At the same time, Lu Baoyang felt a warm feeling on the left side of his face. The masked soul bone was fusing with his face. Now, it had been fused with the left side of his face. When the same masked bone-like object appeared on the right side of his face, at this time, the absorption of soul bones should be completed. During the process of absorbing soul bones, Lu Baoli found it strange. In the theory class, the Jilin Education Committee once said that the human body can bear 6 soul bones, namely the head, hands, legs, and torso. In addition, if the soul master is lucky, he may also obtain an attached soul bone. Different parts of the soul bones will strengthen different physical attributes for the soul master. For example, head soul bones generally increase the absorber's mental attributes. Hand soul bones enhance the strength attribute, and leg soul bones enhance the speed attribute. The shape of the masked soul bone dropped by the Shadow Lord clearly belongs to the category of head soul bones. However, during the process of absorbing this soul bone, Lu Bao did not feel any signs of improvement in his mental power. Could it be that this masked soul bone enhancement is not about mental attributes? About half an hour later, weird patterns and raised bone-like objects also appeared on the right side of Lu Badai's face, forming the shape of half a mask. The masks on the left and right sides of the face merge into one, forming a complete body. Finally, the absorption of the masked soul bone was completed. Lu Baoyang did not stand up in joy, but continued to sit cross-legged on the ground, carefully feeling the changes after the soul bone merged with his body. This black mask soul bone is called the shadow face bone, also known as the shadow mask bone. It is not a head soul bone, but a soul bone attached to the head, a far rarer existence than a 100,000-year soul ring. This is why the shadow mask bone does not strengthen the mental attributes, because it is an externally attached soul bone and will not strengthen the physical attributes in any way until it is completely integrated with the body. It was precisely because Lu Baoli found that the soul bone was not 100% integrated with the body after the absorption was completed that he determined that it was an external soul bone. Now, the fusion degree of the shadow mask bone and the body is only 30%. It will take some time or some kind of opportunity to completely integrate it with the body. Even so, the skills attached to the shadow mask bone can still be used. Evil thoughts swallow, and evil thoughts fuse. These are the two current abilities of Shadow Mask Bone. After absorbing the Shadow Lord's Soul Ring, Lu Hao's Shadow Martial Soul already possesses dark and evil attributes. Now the two abilities attached to the Shadow Mask Bone are exactly produced by the evil attributes. The Shadow Mask Bone is a 50,000-year-old soul bone. It only comes with the skill of Evil Thought Fusion, and Evil Thought Devouring is one of the special abilities of the attached soul bone itself. For example, BB Dong's externally attached soul bone has the ability to fly in addition to the soul bone skills. In addition to the life-devouring skill, Tang San's external soul bone also had the ability to poison. The same is true for Lu Haoli's external soul bone. In addition to the soul bone skill of Evil Thought Fusion, it can also swallow the evil thoughts deep in the hearts of surrounding living beings. The evil thoughts swallowed back by the Shadow Mask Bone can be converted into one's own energy, which can be used to restore physical strength or soul power, or to enhance energy attacks. The Shadow Mask Bone comes with the skill Evil Thought Fusion, which can be fused with any evil thought body, thus exerting a power that is far greater than 1 + 1 than 2. When a soul master absorbs soul rings and soul bones produced by the same soul beast, he will obtain unexpected soul bone skills. This statement is indeed correct. The fifth soul skill, Shadow Contract, consumes 2/3 of the soul power to guide the malice in the heart of the living body to merge with its shadow into a dark form, and separate from the living body to form an independent individual. The Shadow Mask Bone comes with the skill Evil Thought Fusion, which allows Lu Hao to fuse with this independent dark body. This fusion is comparable to the Martial Soul Fusion skill. In other words, under the combined effect of the fifth soul skill Shadow Contract and Shadow Mask Bone, Lu Bao can perform Martial Soul Fusion skills with any Soul Master's evil mind body. After understanding all the abilities of the Shadow Mask Bone, Lu Haoli took back the Soul Bone, and the black mask covering his entire face turned into patterns and faded away from his face, revealing his delicate face. Lu Bao's tense body suddenly relaxed, and he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. His face was calm, and he was indeed very excited. This was his first soul bone, and it was still an external soul bone that could evolve with the growth of a soul master. The 50,000-year-old Shadow Mask Bone already possesses such miraculous soul bone skills. What kind of skill effects will be produced when it evolves into a 100,000-year-old soul bone, or even a god-level soul bone? How do you feel after absorbing the soul bone? Qian Rinxue came to Lu Baoyang and asked, "That should be a head soul bone, right?" "Yes, that is indeed a piece of head soul bone. After it is absorbed, not only does my mental power increase significantly, but I also have a soul bone skill called Evil Thought Fusion." While responding to Qian Rinxue's question, Lu Bao was also thinking that he must not tell Qian Rinxue and Ilanthus that the Shadow Mask Bone is an external soul bone, because the external soul bone is too rare and cannot be completely integrated with the body before it is completely integrated with the body. The attached soul bone can be taken away. In order to prevent Douluo's incident of snatching Tang San's soul bone from happening to him, of course Lu Bao had to conceal it. "What about soul power? Has it improved?" Qian Rinxue asked. Lu Hao nodded. "After absorbing the soul bones, my soul power has been raised by 1 level. It is now level 56. Level 56. Qian Rinxue was curious. "You just absorbed a soul ring and a soul bone, and your soul power suddenly increased by 6 levels from level 50? "I absorbed a 50,000-year-old soul ring, and the soul bone and the soul ring come from the same soul beast." Lu Bao said, "Perhaps it is because of this that I can have so much improvement in soul power. This is leapfrogging. Absorb the benefits of the soul ring." Qian Rinxue thought for a moment and felt that this explanation made sense, so she stopped pursuing it. She looked Lu Bao up and down, and after a moment of silence, she said, "Let's compare. Didn't you say you let me test your physical strength? Okay. After a round of soul fighting, I can test your potential and see how your fifth soul skill and soul bone skills are." "Okay." Lu Baoyang changed the subject and said with a smile, "But I have never lost in a spirit fight with others. You should have known that when you went to the big spirit fighting arena as Shui Qingyi to watch the game, right? I have 50 winning streak. I can easily defeat even opponents whose level is one title higher than mine. If you fight me, you will most likely lose miserably like Duga Yin and Yu Tianheng. So I will not provide you with psychological counseling. No need, Qian Rinxue said sternly. I am different from them. You will fail in front of me. When I disguised myself as Shui Qingyi and went to the Great Soul Fighting Arena to watch you fight, I had already seen through you. Your fighting method is nothing more than using shadows to wrap around the enemy. Use shadows to immobilize them and swap positions. Speaking of this, Qian Rinxue smiled confidently. These tricks may be useful for ordinary soul masters, but if you want to use shadows to control my seraph martial spirit, you're dreaming. After hearing this, Lu Baoxiao shook his head. Your Highness, that's a pity. In the years since I left Tiando Royal Academy, I have learned new fighting methods. As I said, shadow is not limited to control and assistance. It's omnipotent. As he spoke, Lu Baohai had already possessed the shadow martial soul. The 5 soul rings under his feet flickered. His black pupils turned into different colors, and the black energy wrapped around his body condensed into a shadow-breaking gun in his hand, with the gun pointed directly at Qian Rinxue. Said in a deep voice, I want to stab you. Seeing the black gun head in front of her eyes flashing with cold light, Qian Rinxue smiled without being surprised. She took a few steps back with a fearless look on her cold face. No matter how much nonsense you say, it's useless. Come on. After seeing you look like this, I have wanted to fight you once for a long time. After saying this, the surrounding gloomy environment was instantly shrouded in a golden light, and a seraph spirit appeared as high as 20 meters away. The sacred aura spread and dyed a large area of the canyon golden yellow. There is only one update today, and I will update it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Chapter 107 Shadow Tomb Realm, an Angel Realm. After the Seraph Martial Spirit was released, a ray of light shone from Qian Rinxue's body. It was a bright golden light that started from her forehead and spread to her entire body in an instant. Soul rings appeared on her body one after another, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 2 black. As the martial soul and soul ring appeared, 2 pairs of golden wings emerged from Qian Rinxue's back and spread out. Her body seemed to have escaped the control of gravity and slowly floated up, stagnating on the huge 6'6" body behind her. A spot on the chest of the winged angel's martial spirit. Under the strong golden light, Qian Rinxue's eyes turned completely golden, and her body was releasing golden light with a sacred aura and terrifying pressure all the time. Lu Baoyang's eyes were first attracted by Qian Rinxue's stunning figure and appearance, and then he quietly stared at the seraph martial spirit behind Qian Rinxue. Seeing this god-level martial spirit for the first time, Lu Baoyang couldn't help but feel a twinge in his heart. Shocked, the shadow spirit appeared like an illusion, and the endless dark aura enveloped the surrounding environment, counteracting the aura suppression of the seraph spirit. I saw that half of the dark mountain forest was golden and half was dark black. The auras of light and darkness were fighting each other, but they always remained on one side, forming 2 worlds of light and darkness. Even though the shadow spirit is 10 meters away, it still looks a little smaller in front of the seraphim spirit, with the height difference between them being twice as much. In terms of body shape, the shadow martial spirit is like the difference between a mother and a child compared to the seraphim martial spirit. The golden light covering the mountain forest is twice as large as the black light. No matter in terms of quality, size, or even the momentum of the seraph martial spirit, it is completely superior to the shadow martial spirit. The sacred golden light instantly broke through the black light, completely rendering the entire mountain forest golden. The black energy entangled in the shadow martial soul was erased by the golden light. The Aguda Douluo retreated 100 meters away and stood under a tree to watch the battle. He was affected by the auras of darkness and light at the same time. He had a feeling of alternating hot and cold. When the golden light completely replaced the black light, he felt as if he was bathing in the sun. Comfort and peace of mind. Before the war even started, the array Douluo had already figured out which one was stronger and which one was weaker. Light and darkness restrain each other. When the potential of one is not as good as the other, this restraint relationship will be infinitely amplified. Qian Rinxue has 7 more levels of soul power than Lu Baobao, and has one more soul ring. After weighing the strength of both sides, the geyser Douluo, who was watching the battle, smiled sinisterly. How could a mere shadow defeat an angel? The moment the darkness of the shadow martial arts was completely broken by the golden light, Lu Bao was hit by the backlash and took a few steps back before he could stabilize his figure. The mere confrontation between the martial soul's auras had already weakened him by 3 points. Qian Rinshue's 4 wings spread out behind her, and her body floated in midair. A pair of golden eyes stared at Lu Bao, who had an ugly face, and said with a faint smile, "I told you, I am different from you Tianheng and the others." Lu Bao, take out everything now that you have the strength. I want to personally verify what level your current strength can reach. As soon as he finished speaking, Qian Rinshue dragged a golden tail flame from behind, and she flew towards Lu Bao on the ground like a shooting star chasing the moon. When Lu Bao saw Qian Rinshue rushing towards him, it suddenly became unreal. The space around her body seemed to be slightly distorted, so that neither his mental power nor his eyesight could lock onto her exact position. The dazzling golden light and the gorgeous golden light and shadow behind her bloomed at the same time, and a powerful and sacred pressure rushed towards her face. The second and fourth soul rings under Lu Baoyang's feet lit up at the same time, and he gained 50% of the speed and attack increase of the second soul skill shadow attack. He also superimposed 5 shadows of surrounding plants on his body, and gained the 4th soul skill shadow swallowing. All attributes are increased by 50%. Just as Qian Rinshue, who turned in a golden light, flew towards his eyes, Lu Baohao held the shadow-breaking gun and exerted force with both feet. He poured all his strength into the soul-breaking gun and then thrust it out suddenly. The black air accompanied by the gun tip distorted the air. With the force of breaking through the sky, it turned into an explosive dark flying arrow, which penetrated the sky. But such a shocking blow was missed. Qian Rinshue, who was originally stabbed by the shadow-breaking spear, flickered like an illusion and bypassed the attack range of the shadow-breaking spear. Her figure flashed to the left side of Lu Bao, and an unknown figure appeared in her hand. At some point, a golden long sword appeared and swung it towards Lu Bao quickly. Bright golden light flew out from the long sword, forming a golden chop wave that was 10 meters wide. To Qian Rinshue's surprise, her attack missed. Lu Bao's figure flashed, and he actually fled 100 meters away, narrowly avoiding the golden light strike of the long sword. The two men's attacks were almost impossible to hit, and even though they were thousands of miles away, no one could benefit from the other in a simple contest. Lu Bao, your escape speed is really amazing. No wonder I sent so many agile attack soul emperors to follow you. But they can even lose you. Qian Rinshue looked at Lu Bao, who was 100 meters away, coldly. Said, but you can't defeat me with foolish dodge, and I can knock you down with just one blow. Faced with the sudden provocation, Lu Haoli smiled instead of getting angry. Your seraphim spirit is very powerful, and you have 7 levels of spirit power higher than mine, and you also have 1 more spirit ring than me. Logically speaking, I'm not your opponent. But unfortunately, you don't have enough actual combat experience, and I have the ability to fight at a higher level, which is why you will lose to me. Lost to you. Qian Rinshue sneered contemptuously, but now you are forced to do nothing by me and can only run away. Really? You only saw me running away, but you didn't see that you were already a caught fish. Lu Bao said solemnly. I told you, you don't have enough actual combat experience, and you didn't even know you were stepping on a trap. How can you defeat me? Qian Rinshue subconsciously looked at her feet. At this moment, the ghost soldiers lurking under her feet in the form of black shadows suddenly exploded and turned into countless black ropes wrapped around Qian Rinshue's body. Just now, Lu Bao exchanged places with this ghost soldier. He fled 100 meters away, while the ghost soldier turned into a black shadow and escaped to the surface, staying in place waiting for an opportunity. This was Lu Bao's arrangement. Net. Once the enemy falls into the net, countless ghost soldiers lurking on the surface will appear and turn into shadows to wrap the enemy into a giant cocoon. After being tied up with black ropes, Qian Rinshue originally wanted to release her soul power to shatter the black ropes, but unexpectedly, she was affected by the immobilization effect of the third soul skill Shadow Control, making it difficult to break free from the control in an instant. Countless ghost soldiers who had been lurking on the surface turned into shadows and rushed towards Qian Rinxue quickly, spiraling up from her feet and wrapping tightly around her head. The tough shadow strangled Qian Rinxue's neck, and the strong restraint squeezed her neck, making it difficult for her to breathe. She tried her best to resist, but she could not easily break free from the control of this series of shadows. The ghost soldiers controlled the enemy, and there was only one thing Lu Bao needed to do, and that was to use the instant prison shadow killing array to end the battle. 10 ghost soldiers escaped from the air and formed a double team with Lu Bao, surrounding Qian Rinxue. All the ghost soldiers had a black spear in their hands. They followed Lu Bao and made the same move. The first soul skill locked onto Qian Rinxue's shadow. The second soul skill increased the attack and speed. Then they raised the spear with lightning speed. Carrying the wind, he charged forward, pointed the spear without a tip directly at Qian Rinxue's position, and rushed away. Qian Rinxue tried to shatter the shadow that had wrapped her body into a cocoon, but she always failed. She didn't understand why her soul power was 7 levels higher than Lu Bao's, and her soul power contained bright and sacred energy, but she couldn't break free easily. Shadow's bondage. What's going on? Of course, Qian Rinxue couldn't understand, because the shadow is the dark side of the body and is closely related to the body. Lu Bao's body has been transformed by the Ice Fire Immortal Grass and has become extremely powerful. Also, with the indestructible body given by the strange velvet Babel chrysanthemum, his shadow naturally has unparalleled qualities of tenacity. Unless you are a strong soul saint in the true form of martial soul, it is almost difficult to break through the control effect caused by a series of shadow entanglements and shadow immobilization in an instant. Unable to break away from the control of the shadow, Lu Bao's attacks were coming from 10 directions. In the crisis, Qian Rinxue finally panicked. She admitted that she had been executing latent plans over the years, except for cultivating her soul power. She didn't have much actual combat experience, so she wanted to have a soul battle with Lu Bao, who was experienced in combat, but she never thought that within 3 moves, she would have turned from a huge advantage to a disadvantage. As Shui Qingyi, she had watched Lu Baoyang fight countless times in the great soul fighting arena. Qian Rinxue originally thought that she was confident, but when the battle actually happened, she realized clearly that it was not the person fighting Lu Baoyan who was too weak. But Lu Bao was far beyond the reach of ordinary people. With excellent adaptability, rich combat experience, understanding of combat techniques, and the unpredictable shadow martial spirit, if it were a year ago, Qian Rinxue would have been confident in killing Lu Bao instantly. But now Lu Bao is different from before. They are completely different, and their strength has improved so much. In desperation, Qian Rinxue had no choice but to activate the angel field, using the impact generated when the field spread to shatter the countless shadows wrapped around her body. Violent golden light erupted from the body, and even Qian Rinxue's long golden hair became gleaming with golden light. The surging sacred aura rushed in all directions like waves, turning all the ghost soldiers who attacked into nothingness. The instant prison shadow killing formation was interrupted. Lu Bao immediately stopped attacking and used Shadow Swap to escape 100 meters away. Circles of golden halo directly enveloped the entire mountain forest with strange and beautiful sounds. Being caught in the golden light, Lu Bao felt uncomfortable all over. The black energy surrounding his body disappeared and was replaced by a layer of hazy golden light. What surprised Lu Bao the most was that the body of the dolphin Douluo, who was watching the battle from a distance, also had a layer of golden light, and everything in the originally gloomy mountain forest around him became a bit golden and hazy. Although he has not yet felt the effects of these golden lights, Lu Bao is almost certain that this golden light envelope and the Shadow Tomb domain are the same type of ability. It should be Qian Rinxue's domain skill that released the Seraphim Spirit. After the impact generated by the release of the Angel domain shattered all the shadows wrapped around her body, Qian Rinxue's body floated into the sky again. The huge Seraphim Spirit appeared behind her like an illusion. She was in her own domain. Both the momentum and the golden light released were already several times stronger than before. After being subjected to a series of shadow controls by Lu Baoyang, Qian Rinxue did not dare to be careless anymore. She pointed the golden sword directly at Lu Baoyang and said with a cold expression, "You are very powerful. You can control me beyond the level, which is enough to prove that you can control me in battle. I am indeed inferior to you in terms of experience. I underestimated you. However, I have unique domain skills. In this angelic domain, no one is my opponent. Lu Bao, you are no exception. No, you still underestimated me." Holding the shadow-breaking gun behind him, with 5 soul rings spinning at his feet, Lu Baohao looked at Qian Rinxue, who was stagnant in midair, and said with a faint smile, "You are not the only one with this domain." Only then, hearing this, Qian Rinxue's golden eyes couldn't help but tremble slightly. The next moment, fierce black light burst out from Lu Bao's body, expanded outward, and instantly suppressed her angelic realm. At this time, Lu Hao was already in his Shadow Tomb realm, and the golden light surrounding his body dissipated, replaced by a cold black aura. Seeing her angelic realm being forcibly pressed back, Qian Rinxue suddenly felt a sense of horror in her heart. When she saw a hazy black force fighting against her angelic realm, all the horror in her heart was reflected on her face. He actually has a field? Qian Rinxue was secretly surprised and looked directly at the area-wide black light envelope formed with Lu Bao as the center. Isn't that a domain skill, just like her own golden light envelope? At this moment, the Shadow Tomb realm and the Angel realm are like 2 energy balls that do not invade each other, releasing black and golden light. Qian Rinxue is still in her angelic realm, while Lu Baoyang is in his Shadow Tomb realm. Neither of them is enveloped by the other's realm. The light and sacred attributes of the Angel realm cannot affect Lu Baoyang. The Shadow Tomb realm, the darkness and evil attributes are unable to infect Qian Rinxue in the slightest. The two of them were facing each other with their eyes as if they were in 2 different worlds, and the golden and black auras released from the 2 realms were confronting each other. Suddenly, the Angel domain was pushed back by the Shadow Tomb domain, and the area covered became smaller, while the range of the Shadow Tomb domain became larger. Qian Rinxue had discovered that she clearly had the advantage of having 7 levels of soul power and 1 more soul ring, but she was almost defeated by Lu Baoli in the previous battle. Now she was even defeated by Lu Baoli in the Angel field that she was proud of. With her domain skills, the feeling of being pressured everywhere really made her uncomfortable. The moment the Shadow Tomb realm suppressed the Angel realm, Lu Baoli could already see that although the aura of the Shadow Spirit was suppressed by the Seraphim Spirit, the Shadow Tomb realm was better than the Angel realm. Because the Angel field is a field of talent, it is the innate field skill of the Seraphim Spirit. It needs to be in the true form of the Spirit for the tyranny of this talent field to be fully revealed. The Shadow Tomb realm is the dark attribute evolved by the Shadow Soul. Although it belongs to the talent field of the Shadow Soul, it is still somewhat different from the pure talent field. This leads to the huge energy between the Shadow Tomb realm and the Angel realm. Gap. Or maybe it's because when the Pa clan was learning how to make medicine and poison, they secretly went to the cemetery in Xinghua City and sealed many shadows of the dead. This made the Shadow Tomb realm different from what it used to be and became more powerful. Seeing the Shadow Tomb realm gradually forcing the Angel realm back, Lu Baohai couldn't help but sneered and said bitterly, "Zheng, you can't beat me without a realm. But you still can't beat me with a realm. Qian Rinxue, you're so angry not angry." Any soul master has a strong competitive spirit and self-esteem, let alone an arrogant successor to the throne of God. Hearing this provocation, coupled with the humiliation of almost being defeated by Lu Bao with a huge advantage, Qian Rinxue, who was good at forbearing, finally became angry, gritting her teeth with hatred, and her eyes showing a bit of venom. It's not her fault for being short-tempered. It's just that Lu Baoyan's tone was too harsh and mean. Why was Dougyan so easily angry back then? It wasn't because he couldn't stand Lu Bao's cynicism and all kinds of vicious attacks. "You are not allowed to call me by my name." Qian Rinxue waved the golden sword in her hand, and all the anger on her face converged into her eyes, and she said coldly, "Lu Bao, if I don't beat you down today, I can't bear it. The tone, Chapter 108, Dark Qian Rinxue, the first soul, ring lit up, and the golden halo on Qian Rinxue's body instantly condensed towards the right fist that was not holding the sword. She punched down, and the golden light condensed in the fist came out like a huge round shield and rushed into the shadow. The Tomb Realm was approaching Lu Haoli. Lu Haoli moved his right foot half a step back, and explosive black energy burst out from his whole body. All the soul power with extreme fire energy gathered on the shadow-breaking spear, causing it to ignite with fierce black flames. The shadow-breaking spear technique is adapted from the Paklan's soul-breaking spear technique combined with various marksmanship techniques on Douluo Star. The main idea is to only attack, but not defend. Every attack is to use force until all the enemy's defenses are broken. There are currently 3 moves in the shadow-breaking spear technique, including the mighty dragon breaking the army, the flying dragon flying to the sky, and the angry dragon piercing the heart. Each move is coherent and orderly, taking advantage of the situation to help. 3 moves are launched at the same time, and with the various enhancements of the Shadow Tomb domain and soul skills, even a defensive Soul Saint's martial soul true body does not dare to take it hard. This move is because the shadow-breaking gun's attack can ignore shield defense and directly cause damage to the human body. Lu Haoli used his legs to drive his waist, then used his belt to carry his body, and his arms to carry his arms. Every movement he made was using force. The movement of his body almost reached a perfect fit. When the whole body's strength was injected into the shadow-breaking gun, it is a full-strength blow that uses force to exert force, and the power is superimposed to the extreme. The first form of the shadow-breaking gun is the dragon breaking the army. With a turn of his wrist and a move of the spear, all the black flames condensed on the tip of the spear. Lu Haoli sent out the shadow-breaking spear at the same time. The black light condensed on the tip of the spear suddenly blasted out, turning into a huge dragon shadow burning with black flames. That was the shadow of the Fire Dragon King. It rose up with the roar of the dragon, and the dragon shadow collided with the huge angel fist that Qian Rinxue swung down with the force of breaking through the air. Boom, 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 boom. With a loud bang, black and golden light exploded instantly, forming energy ripples that rushed in all directions. The black dragon shadow in the sky did not disappear after crushing the angel's giant fist, and continued to dive forward. The second form of the shadow-breaking gun is Fulong soaring to the sky. Lu Haoli took advantage of the opportunity to raise his shadow-breaking spear, and the black dragon image was forcibly twisted in midair, with even more violent impact and destructive power, soaring upwards until Qian Rinxue was driven away. How could Qian Rinxue have thought that in the angel realm, her first soul skill would be instantly shattered, and that the realm's evolutionary skill, Angel Melt, would not dissolve and corrupt the dragon shadow? What she didn't expect was that the dragon shadow released by Lu Haoli could forcibly change the direction of the attack. Although Qian Rinxue is extremely talented and has a powerful seraphim spirit, she has been lurking in the royal family of the Tiando Empire, and she usually has to hide her strength as much as possible. Therefore, she was very lacking in actual combat experience. At this time, facing the attack that could turn, she felt a little confused. She hated herself for neglecting her training. Otherwise, she would have broken through level 70 and obtained the spirit of Seraphim earlier. The real body, the angel realm, would not be so worthless and would not be suppressed by Lu Haoli's realm. Facing the soaring impact of the dragon shadow, in desperation, Qian Rinxue could only use all her strength and activated the 5th soul skill, the Sacred Sword. Raising his hands, Qian Rinxue already had a 40-meter giant sword in his hands under the convergence of light from the angel realm. It was a sword blade completely made of golden flames. There was no entity, but the terrifying energy fluctuations above made the dolphin Douluo, who was watching the battle, tremble in his heart. This is an attack in the form of pure energy, condensed from sacred fire. Not only is the attack power extremely powerful, but it can also increase the purification effect of the angel's soul power by 300%. In addition, the angel domain's increase in itself reached 30%. If an ordinary soul master is hit by Qian Rinxue's sword, his soul power will be greatly melted first. In addition, Due to the sword injury he received, his skin will peel off even if he does not die. Fortunately, the Black Dragon Shadow, released by Lu Haoli, was already the second form of the shadow-breaking gun. After being strengthened by the first form of the dragon-breaking army, the penetrating power, destructive power, and attack power of the Black Dragon Shadow have been greatly improved. There is also a 50% increase in attack and speed of the second soul skill Shadow Strike, a 50% increase in all attributes of the fourth soul skill Shadow Devour, and a 10% enhancement of all attributes in Shadow Tomb Domain. What's more, the second form of the shadow-breaking gun, Fulong Xiangtian, only serves to accelerate and use force to strengthen the offensive. It is the third form of the shadow-breaking gun, Furious Dragon Piercer, that ultimately causes fatal damage to the enemy. I saw the soaring Black Dragon Shadow igniting fierce black flames. With the blessing of the ultimate fire energy, it not only gave the Dragon Shadow more powerful penetrating and destructive power, but also had the attack effect of burning everything. If an ordinary Soul Master is directly hit by a Dragon Shadow, his soul power will first be burned away by the ultimate flame, and then he will be pierced through the heart by the Dragon Shadow and die. Of course, this is just a sparring match. When Long Ying is about to hit Qian Rinxue, Lu Haoli will forcefully change the direction of Long Ying's attack, which will not really cause serious damage to Qian Rinxue. Coincidentally, the Black Dragon Shadow, like Qian Rinxue's sacred sword, is also an attack in the form of pure energy, condensed from the fire of darkness. Even if it is faced with the sacred sword swung by Qian Rinxue with all his strength, it may not be impossible. Enemy. Just for a moment, the Black Dragon Shadow, soaring into the sky, suddenly collided with the falling sacred sword. In midair, one black and one white, two rays of light exploded instantly. The huge energy fluctuation caused an explosion in the midair, like thunder rolling from the sky. The surrounding large pieces of gold shattered in response, like a piece of glass being broken by a sharp weapon, turning into golden fragments. Each fragment shattered into countless golden light spots, and then disappeared in the air. The originally dazzling and golden Death Canyon has returned to its proper darkness. The Angel Domain and the 40-meter golden sword that Qian Rinxue swung down were shattered by the Black Dragon Shadow. Qian Rinxue stretched the four wings on his back as much as possible and controlled his body to stop in the air, watching the golden fragments scatter in front of his eyes. Her cold face showed disbelief, and her eyes were full of horror. With a soul power 7 levels higher than that of Lu Haoli and one more soul ring, the full strength blow he used was not only shattered by Lu Haoli, but even the angelic realm was shattered in front of him. In the past, Qian Rinxue had practiced actual combat with her grandfather and several uncles. Now, this was the first time she was fighting an outsider openly. The result of this first actual combat was that she was defeated with an overwhelming advantage. Thinking of this, Qian Rinxue's eyes couldn't help but tremble slightly. The fragmentation of the angelic realm was just like her proud heart. It suddenly shattered. The shock in her eyes turned into confusion. The seraph martial spirit behind her disappeared, and the body is no longer protected by golden light. After the angel realm was shattered, the Shadow Tomb realm was no longer blocked by any energy and suddenly enlarged, covering hundreds of meters in radius. Trapped in the realm of Shadow Tomb, Qian Rinxue felt herself weakened. Darkness, coldness, and an aura of evil lingered around her. No, not lost yet. The confusion in Qian Rinxue's eyes faded, replaced by perseverance. She vibrated the 4 golden wings on her back, released the seraphim martial spirit again, and the 6th spirit ring lit up. Just when Qian Rinxue was about to use her 6th soul skill to release a large-scale mental sound wave attack, her movements stopped for an instant, and her whole body was suspended in the air in a daze, and her thoughts became extremely weird, as if there is another self in the body, and it is trying to take control of its own body at this moment. The sound of her heart beating could be heard more and more clearly. Qian Rinxue covered her heart with one hand, held her forehead with the other, and shook her head violently. Countless resentments, malice, and thoughts seemed to have been poured into her brain and heart. All kinds of negative emotions. The thumping heartbeat echoed like a huge, muffled sound. At this time, Qian Rinxue's eyes were dull, and a black word shadow was engraved on the back of the hand holding her forehead. The word shadow is as big as a green jujube. It looks like a very ordinary word, but once it appears on a certain life form, it means that the life form has fallen into evil. People after the evil fall will undergo great changes in personality and mentality, and will release the evil hidden in their nature without any scruples. Qian Rinshua's body will be engraved with the word shadow, which symbolizes evil, which was influenced by Lu Haoli's fifth soul skill, Shadow Contract. At this moment, Qian Rinshua has been possessed by the Shadow Contract, and the malice, hatred, resentment, and all evil thoughts deep in her heart are constantly being amplified. Lu Haoli only needs to consume a certain amount of soul power to guide the evil thoughts in Qian Rinshua's heart, allowing the evil thoughts to devour her soul and body, turning her into a dark and evil existence. Seeing Qian Rinshua suspended in midair, motionless as if unconscious, Lu Haoli secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He did not expect that the first object controlled by the fifth soul skill Shadow Contract turned out to be one with light and sacred attributes. Qian Rinshua. After spending so long, it finally took its toll on her. In fact, the very next second the battle between the two started, Lu Haoli had already activated his first and fifth soul skills. He first locked onto Qian Rinshua's shadow and then used Shadow Contract on her, planting the seeds of darkness deep in her heart. Unfortunately, the light and sacred attributes of the Seraph Martial Spirit protected Qian Rinshua. No matter how the Shadow Contract tried to guide the evil thoughts deep in her heart, it could not succeed. The Shadow Contract will be erased by a light-attributed soul master with a higher spiritual power than Lu Haoli. Qian Rinshua happens to be the most outstanding light-attributed soul master, and her sixth soul skill is a mental attack, so the sixth soul ring must be greatly improved. Strengthened her spiritual attributes. This means that Qian Rinshua at full state can erase the Shadow Contract effortlessly. At the beginning, when the Shadow Contract was applied to Qian Rinshua, she did not need to erase it on her own. The light and sacred aura in her body had completely suppressed the Shadow Contract. In order to weaken Qian Rinshua's mental power, Lu Haoli purposely used his harsh tone to anger her, making the malice or resentment in her heart rise, and tried to prevent her from remaining calm at all times. After that, Qian Rinshua's angel domain and fifth soul skill, the Holy Sword, were completely shattered, causing her willpower to be frustrated, her heart to be shaken, and she was affected by various negative emotions. With these conditions, Lu Haoli can control Qian Rinshua through the Shadow Contract. However, Qian Rinshua's willpower and mental power are in a low state, and she can no longer use light and sacred attributes to erase the Shadow Contract engraved on her body. That's why she was controlled by the Shadow Contract, and the evil thoughts in her heart were lured out. When the consciousness is completely swallowed by evil thoughts, Qian Rinshua will become an unconscious shadow person, which is the so-called evil thoughts body. Unless Lu Haoli unlocks the Shadow Contract himself, or Qian Rinshua's mental state returns to normal and erases the word shadow engraved on the back of her hand. Otherwise, even if she can escape the control of evil thoughts for a short period of time and be herself, she will still be affected by the Shadow Contract in the future and turn into darkness. This after effects will last for a long time before disappearing automatically. 1/3 of his soul power was injected into the fifth soul ring, and Lu Haoli activated the first stage of the Shadow Contract, guiding the evil thoughts deep in Qian Rinshua's heart to devour her soul and body. Her weak mental power and willpower were no longer enough for Qian Rinshua to resist the control of the Shadow Pact. Unable to resist, the Seraphim spirit that Qian Rinshua had just released disappeared again, and a light black light emerged from her body. Released, forming a light black sphere to wrap her in it. The next moment, the light black sphere gathered inside her body, causing her whole body, which had never been contaminated by darkness, to be enveloped in black energy. The increasingly dense black energy seeped into Qian Rinshua's body through her skin, and her consciousness was being controlled by the ever-expanding evil thoughts in her heart. When the black energy surrounding her body completely dissipated, Qian Rinshua's appearance and clothing had undergone visible changes. Qian Rinshua, who is currently suspended in midair, has almost the same appearance as before, but her dressing style is very different. Her long blonde hair has turned white, and her whole body is mainly black, and she wears more clothes than the original Qian Renshue. Exposed, especially on the back, against the dark makeup, the entire skin looks very fair. Compared with Qian Renshue's original skin color, which is more bright and golden, it looks more supple. And the back, whether it is curvature or fleshy, is also all our first class. After the darkening of the shadow contract, Qian Renshue's white hair is even more charming. Her red lips and slender waist make her very sexy. Just a slight gasp gives people a seductive feeling that is impossible to resist. Her voice seduces. Looking at the blackened Qian Renshue, Lu Haoli felt a little strange. The first stage of the control of the shadow contract would lead to malice and darken the victim. The darkened evil body should completely lose consciousness and consciousness. But the dark Qian Renshue who appeared in front of him seemed to still have self-awareness. It was not Qian Renshue's original consciousness, but an existence with a completely opposite personality to Qian Renshue. The soul skill information provided by the soul ring to the soul master will definitely not be false. If Qian Renshue still has self-awareness after turning black, there is only one possibility. The dark Qian Renshue who appears in front of him at this moment is most likely Qian Renshue. There is a dark personality that exists deep inside Snow's heart. After the guidance of the shadow contract, Qian Renshue's dark personality took over her body. The dark Qian Renshue, suspended in the air, explored her body in surprise. From the look of surprise on her beautiful face, it can be seen that she not only has consciousness, but also has self-awareness. What's going on? Have I taken over her body? Douluo Qian Renshue gently touched her face with her hand, half smiling, but not smiling. She said to herself in a charming voice, "A little tempering of darkness can transform your face. Your will is worn out. It seems that you are still so fragile and have completely fallen into darkness. Light is really vulnerable." After figuring out the ins and outs of the matter, the four black wings behind Douluo Qian Renshue suddenly expanded, and an extremely huge dark aura lingered around her body. Even the illusory spirit of the seraphim turned black and became a fallen angel. The coquettish gaze swept across the surrounding environment. This gloomy mountain forest was full of darkness and evil. At this moment, dark Qian Renshue was sure that it was the darkness and evil atmosphere here that had corroded the light, causing the light to turn into darkness. Now that the light part of her has fallen asleep, the dark part of her has taken over the body and gained a new life. Dark side Qian Renshue's gaze fell on Lu Haoli, and a flash of surprise flashed in her eye.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.